And the Broad Institute of Harvard and MIT, muttmix.org, will take you to this, and the actual study is done. We did this as a live study, a real citizen science, 6-8 months ago or something. It closed, where we asked people to complete this survey without ever getting the answer, so no reinforcement history, and see if they could guess what was in these dogs. And the answer was not really, and the difference between professionals who work with dogs and pet owners was something like 0.04%. But now we kept it live so people can take it, and we had 10,000 people complete it and over 30,000 people take this, so the data we got from it was fantastic. Now people can take it and they learn whether they're right or wrong every guess. And we did a couple of dastardly things. One was we actually took sequenced DNA from these dogs, so we knew what they were, and we asked people for the top 3 breeds. And I know for my 60 years of being interested in dogs, it's always 2 purebreds were walking down the street one night, and then the Karelian bear dog and the Catahoula baby bird, got together, and then they, but in fact it's not, or very rarely is, and so some of the mixes were absolutely ridiculous. So interesting, so funny. There was one dog in here that I was 100% convinced was a Corgi Border Collie, to the point where I had the scientists run the DNA again, which is so arrogant. But I was like, no, this has to be that. My entire world is off tilt. And so, but I was 100% wrong. And it's just so interesting to me to see how we all think about dogs. I mean, professionals and non-professionals, and honestly, there's not much of a difference in how we think about them and how we guess at them. There was one savant, she was an AV person at a hotel where I was giving a conference, who guessed something like 70% of them correctly. We were all like, oh, what is this? What is this magic that you do? But if you'd like to try it, you can at any time, and it's up. We're not going to take it down. And go to muttmix.org. Are you ready for me to focus?
I think I am.
Okay, let's see. Oh, I have everything open. Please hold. Let's see how this works. Woohoo! Okay. I don't know if I should use a pointer or not, but give it a whirl. And if it sounds like not working, you let me know. Or I will know because it won't be working. Reinforcement. Sorry, I should have done that. My name is Marjie Alonso, and it's really nice to be here. It's, we dog geeks love to talk about dogs a lot, some might say too much, and it's really a pleasure to share the information and learn also from everybody here who also are admitted dog geeks. And it's just fun. It's fun to be able to do this kind of thing across the community. Let's see if this is working, and if not, the other day I bounced the laser of this thing off of my screen and into my glasses, so I'm now really scared of it. But we'll see if this works. This is kind of on the menu tonight. I'm not a very rich person. If we start talking about something, or there's something you'd like to discuss that isn't on this menu, or if we go in a certain tangent, that's 100% fine with me. The people watching on Facebook don't get to choose, and you guys do, and so let us know. I am the executive director of the International Association of Animal Behavior Consultants. We're in about 28 countries around the world, and we work with dogs, cats, parrots, horses, zoo animals. We have shelter division, a working animal division, which is for primarily service and therapy and assistance dogs, although we have some police and military people that are interested in coming on. And I'm certified with kind of everybody. And then I'm also on a bunch of advisory boards that talk about behavior training for the country and beyond the country, including the American Humane Association and the Fear Free Advisory Board. I'm the co-founder of the Somerville Foundation for Animals with my partner, business partner, veterinarian Dr. Adam Parker. And we, for 10 years, did the Somerville Dog Festival. This coming September, we're handing it off to one of the vet hospitals. By handing it off, I mean we will still be there and working on it, but hopefully they'll be taking it over completely soon. And with that, we've raised funds for the Somerville Pet Food Bank. Through some of the big food banks, people food banks in eastern Massachusetts, we've gotten over 100,000 pounds of food in the last year to people for their pets, pet food. And that's important for a number of reasons. If you can get eyes on pets, you can get eyes on people. If they need help, you're more likely to see them. Those that might not want to come in for help themselves, if their pets need help or food. And also, the world seems to be divided into two very difficult to fundraise groups. One is because we want to start the vet van, so we want to have a mobile veterinary clinic that gives free veterinary services to the same demographic. And when fundraising for that, there are people that say, oh, I love pets, I'll give to pets, why would I give money to people? And then there are people that say, well, why should poor people have pets? And the answer to that is that pets, like for everyone, keep the world relevant for a lot of people. And so it's very, very important to allow people to keep their pets and to keep pets out of shelters. Lisa's missing from this. That's okay. That's Lisa. And Lisa, I must have brought up the wrong PowerPoint. So Lisa McEvoy is a trainer and a colleague and is quite good at her job. And I brought her in case we had a Q&A that was significant and we could sort of split us up. And also she got me here because I get lost. Sorry. What do dogs need? They need what all living beings need. They need enrichment, they need exercise, they need all sorts of things. This is hard for us to sort of wrap our brains around, but only about 75% of the dogs on the planet, 25% of the dogs on the planet are owned. Every other dog is not a breed and not owned. You think of dogs as sort of 100% domesticated, which has no real definition, but what our pet dogs are going through is very difficult for a lot of them. It causes a lot of behavioral issues and causes a lot of training challenges for those of us that care a lot about our animal and want to do the right thing. So while these village dogs or other dogs are hunting and chasing and communing and mating and doing all that stuff, our dogs are doing this, which I'm sure is 100% natural to the species. So leash walks are enrichment. Leash walks are great, but they're not exercise for the most part. These creatures have 4 legs. We have 2. They could hunt and chase down something we would call DoorDash or something that delivers food. And so it's really not a fair matchup. And so taking a dog for a walk, absolutely do it. But unless your dog is sort of panting, lie down tired, that dog hasn't had enough exercise. And I think that the best way to tell is to get spatula tongue out. See that dog has spatula tongue. And this is spatula tongue. And I used to say to clients, if you can't flip a pancake with it, that dog ain't done. So you can see that shape here and here, is like, that's just what that is. That one might be ladle tongue, I don't know. But spatula tongue is what you're going for, which is why it was so exciting for us to hear about your dog park, because it's nice and it's big and they can actually run. What a nice thing. And the question of how much exercise often comes up. And, I think that 30 minutes of real running and real all that is great for most dogs, unless you have a Malinois or some kind of dog that, regularly gets winched out of helicopters, or, you know, goes into combat zones, or rescues people from the ocean, you know, and I think they probably need more, or they're gonna let you know one way or another. It's more, you know, it's not just about feeling good, physically good, although that's part of it. You're having trouble hearing me because literally no one's ever said that before. You know, dogs need to get their anxiety out. We all have, and every living creature has some anxiety. It doesn't all have to be neurotic, but it can be, and dogs are susceptible to that too. And energy, and have their muscles feel good and their bodies feel good. And you really, really don't want a bored dog. I mean, bored dogs are no one's friend. They will find a way to not be so bored. Pause. If you have a dog or know a dog that is causing destruction around doorways and windows, or and it could be an exterior door typically, but it doesn't need to be, that dog probably has what we refer to as separation anxiety, and that's a medical emergency. That needs medical treatment, and you would want a veterinarian and a vet-to-vet consult with a vet behaviorist. This can be deadly to dogs, and either through jumping out second-floor windows, which is not uncommon, or heart attacks and things like that. So if you know a dog that's doing that, you need to get that dog help. Okay, where were we? What does your dog have to look forward to every day? This is probably a typical day for many dogs. And that's kind of boring. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm boring, but I think to my dog, once I have done all the duties, I'm probably a little boring unless I add other stuff in. Training or games. I don't know if you're familiar with nose work, but nose work is an awesome thing where you can, it's fake to say we teach our dogs to scent things. They know how to scent things. We set it up with rules where we can be happy that they found it. So the dog that will find the piece of crumb behind the couch, we're not always that thrilled about, but a dog that can find some food in a box, we're always really happy about. Nose work, if you don't know it, I'm gonna give you a link to this PowerPoint presentation if you'd like it, the right one with Lisa on it, and as well as with a bunch of other links, and I'll include nose work information there. I'm a little concerned about what's coming up because I changed some slides, so we may have to change slides midway. But Lisa shouldn't be missing. In addition to that, you know, food in a bowl, you know that story of the mighty wolf who came down from the mountains and got breakfast in a bowl every day? I don't either. And so it makes sense maybe from a hunger or stomach acid buildup sense to give them a little bit of food in the morning. But if your dog can get their food in other ways throughout the day, that's great. Well, I work from home, so I'm very lucky. I can eat that up, but most people don't work from home. But that's okay. There are food puzzles, there are frozen Kongs with food in it, dog food and not dog food, that you can leave around when they thaw them, and you will have some dogs that finish everything off that you left in 5 minutes and then lie there for the rest of the day bloated and asleep. That's okay too. But one thing about Kongs, I don't know where the fill it with peanut butter thing came from, but please don't give your dogs a quarter cup, half a cup of peanut butter at a time. That's a great way to get pancreatitis and other illnesses. That's a lot of fat, and so dog food is good. Potatoes mixed with dog food, any leftovers your dog likes, frozen green beans, a lot of dogs will do. And you know your dogs, and so whatever your dogs will eat that is helpful, put it in that Kong and freeze it after the first time. If your dog hasn't had a Kong before, don't freeze it, they'll be frustrated and possibly put it through a window. But if you have a beagle. But you know, fill it after the first time that they've gotten to eat it, then fill it with stuff, put them in the freezer, and let your dog have one or two throughout the day, however that happens. If you have a dog walker, the dog walker can leave with that animal when he or she leaves. But the thing about exercise is it's only good for you if it's not stress inducing. So there are a lot of dogs that really have a hard time, especially in city environments, or around automobiles, or around noises, construction sites. You just need to be aware of your dog's sensitivities. And so every dog, and this is kind of be a theme tonight, every dog is a study of one, just like every person is a study of one. You know, do incredibly thin, rich, young women with brown hair like pizza. Well, I like pizza, you know, but maybe not everybody likes pizza. So you can't look at groups and say this is what they like or this is good for them. What we can say is this situation good for my dog, my specific dog, and if you have more than one, this specific dog on this particular day, given this environment. If you go to the dog park and you know there's a dog there that your dog thinks is a jerk, that may or may not be a great day, or to take your dog there, or you may need to go to another section of the park. But because that dog's a jerk, I'm not telling your dog anyway. So I actually do this when I look at this slide, which I try hard not to do, and I do it anyway. There's a few checklist items, I think, that are important before you go out. I know you guys are very dog park savvy, but even dog park savvy people, or maybe especially dog park savvy people, tend to forget to look because it's the same familiar environment all the time. And so we forget to say, oh, my dog's had a bad night, threw up twice, don't know why. Or, you know, had an amazingly rowdy romp yesterday and is a little bit sore today, or whatever it is. There may be circumstances going on for that dog that makes the dog park or any outing not as good an idea as maybe doing some training that day. And likewise for you, you know, if you've got no sleep or you have a deadline for work due or something like that and you're just not in a great mood, maybe a little training, because it's amazing. 10 minutes of training is often quite as effective as a good 45-minute romp at the park. It's quite amazing how our brains can exhaust us just as much as our bodies. And then, you know, the other thing is, what else have you given this dog to do this week? I think that, you know, a bunch of us have these super rowdy dogs that go to the dog park and they're just pills until they've been there about half an hour, and then it's like, okay, there's the dog I know and love, right? But for that first half hour, you just want to kind of strangle them. I did not say strangle your dogs. You know, if you haven't given your dog anything else to do during the week, if that dog's only outlet for energy is that run at the park, there's a problem, because there's just that huge expenditure of energy that needs to get you know, spent, and then that's kind of it. Whereas if you teach your dog other skills through training, through toys, through puzzles, there are food puzzles, then there's a lot of ways for that dog to learn, to advance, to be enriched, besides just running like a maniac at a park. The recall. The recall is super important. I am unable to watch this without saying dun, 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 dun. But if you don't have a good recall, you have to have one. That will save your dog's life. It may save another dog's life, and it is really important to have a good recall. The key to recall is, don't make it always mean the end of fun. We all do that. Okay, Fluffy, come, because now we get to go home and you have to lie down while I go back to work. And the dog's like, I can't hear you right now. I'm sorry, what? There's a plane going overhead. Call your dogs frequently. Give them a minute. Don't call them the second they're off leash at the park, but give it 5 minutes or 10. Call them. Give them, do you have a food or no food park?
No food.
No food park. So find something that your dog finds reinforcing, which means likely to make that behavior happen again. Is it like chasing a leaf that you spin around? Does he like being pet? We all think our dogs do. Not as many do as we think. Is there some training thing that your dog particularly likes, you know, that you can use as a reinforcer once it's really well installed? Find something your dog likes, and then let her go. Okay, good. And then do that again in 10 minutes or 15 minutes, however, you know, it should happen 2 or 3 times during a visit to the dog park. And that's how your dog both understands that this is a normal part of life here too. It's not like all the rules are gone and we are, you know, Lord of the Flies once we're at the dog park, and then we go home, we have manners. But it also means that come does not always mean the end of fun. And that, again, can save everybody. Remember what this means? Pause. So, gangs. Now this is going to be the dirty side of dog parks. Dogs on the run, excited dogs, elevated dogs, aroused dogs, we'll talk about that term later, lose their marbles sometimes, just like people do. And sometimes things can go really wrong. We'll talk about things to look for right now, and one of the classic things to look for is a 2-against-1 scenario. And it does not matter how lovely that dog is at home or even with a couple of dogs. Every one of our dogs, no matter how much they are fantastic and loved, can get involved in these brouhahas. You want to look out for 2-against-1, and you want to look out for size differentials. Terrible things happen to little dogs playing with big dogs when the big dogs lose their marbles. And you want to see if the dog talking is being listened to by the other dogs. If you see a dog going, okay, and the other dog's like, I don't think so, and rolling the dog over, not okay. It's time for humans to intervene. And conversations can change really quickly. You'll see 3 or 5 or 2 or whatever, usually not 2, actually. They'll tell each other pretty clearly. But in groups of dogs, everything will be going great, and then it's suddenly not, and it goes bad fast. And so for those of us that work in behavior and work mopping up a lot of the results of these things, as do veterinarians, we just really want to caution people to look for these with eyes wide open. It doesn't mean play is bad. It doesn't mean parks are bad. It means that the better the people are at understanding the conversations going on, the better that park is, and the better chance your dog will have of not being traumatized, and then you have a world of problems to deal with after that. This breaks all the rules of PowerPoint. I'm about to give you too much information on a slide. There is somewhere PowerPoint hell, and I'll be going there because we are all told not to do this. But how can we tell? How can we tell if a conversation is good or bad? So in this case, there's 3 dogs. Bert and Ernie are chasing Wilma, and Wilma drops to the ground and rolls onto her back. Okay, and you'll see that a lot in dog parks. I'm sure you've seen it. And then Bert and Ernie stop, and they back off, and everybody's sort of panting for a minute. And then she jumps up and starts running, or maybe she just stands up there, and they're all talking, and then does a little ready, and takes off. And then Bert and Ernie give chase and follow, or maybe this time she's chasing one of them. That is great. That's fun, and Wilma's body language said that. She's loose, and she's having fun, and they listened. In the same scenario, Bert and Ernie are chasing Wilma, and Wilma's tail is tucked, and she's running in a straight line. You will very rarely see dogs not chasing a ball running in a straight line, unless there's a squirrel down there, or whatever it is. Other than that, they tend to arc. That is how polite body language goes with dogs. They'll arc around each other. You see this when they sniff each other's rear ends. They arc. You will not see dogs coming straight at each other, and that's why city sidewalks are so delightfully fantastic for so many dogs, because they're forced to. And in this case, Wilma is running in a straight line. She's trying to get away. She's trying to make space. And then she stops and says, all right, sons of you-know-whats, I've had it. And she turns around and she faces them, and she says, that's enough. That's enough. And then Ernie starts barking in her face really loudly, I think really rudely, and then Bert tips her over. Oh no, we're gonna play. And then there's a dog pile, other dogs come over. That's not fun. Wilma has said so repeatedly. This is not fun, this is not safe. Other behaviors to watch for that are not good. I don't trust this guy. I don't know his intent. But that's just there's no reason for that comment. I know nothing about this slide, it just occurred to me. Mobbing is when a dog comes in or goes out of, there's a single entrance, and you'll see a lot of dogs clustering around that dog. They don't have time for a conversation. It's easy to then feel pressured, and as the entering dog, maybe make a dumb move or just feel like this is completely unfair.
We have that all the time.
Yeah, and we'll talk. So we can talk right now about some things you can do about that. Mobbing also happens at any barrier. So benches, gates, trees, that can happen. So if you have the kind of community, and I think you do, that says let's try to fix this, you can do the expensive route would be multiple gates. Everybody always loves that idea because it costs more money. But you can do multiple gates within a dog park, and you can also do more than one entrance gate, so that there's like an ante-room, so that the owners on the inside of the park can come and get their dogs. Okay, you know, remember, we're calling our dogs frequently, and there's no reason a dog can't be leashed for a minute. If that's an issue, this dog needs to get used to that, because that's what life is like. So leash them, bring them away, let the other dog enter. Call your dogs, what a good time to do a little bit of training, or make other entrances so that people can get in, although the dogs know who's coming in, but in a space as big as yours, you might be able to spread that out. Pinning is not funny. Dogs roll over on their backs a lot. Dogs, you know, do a lot of display sounds. Dogs' rituals, dogs' language is really quite beautiful, and they are hysterics when it comes to expressing things. So, you know, I'm on the ground, he's killing me, you know, that kind of stuff happens all the time. But there's a certain point, and you can feel it as much as identify it when it gets kind of quiet, and the bitey face has stopped, and there's just like one dog on the ground, on her back, maybe looking not so engaged, and the other dog is having a blast. Again, what is she saying or he saying? And pinning, when that happens, is very dangerous. The other thing that can happen, do you have collars allowed in your park? Are collars worn?
Some dogs wear them, some take them off.
Yeah, so
Some
I would
some
recommend.
dogs actually wear harnesses even.
I would recommend breakaway collars for the park. I have seen a dog die from another dog grabbing it and flipped, and the collar just couldn't come off. And for a big dog park where people can get a good head of steam, dogs can get a good head of steam going, it's probably a good idea to have your dog park collar, and have that be a breakaway collar. They make many of them. I can't think of any of the manufacturers.
Pet safe means.
So, but I was taking care of Lisa's dog one night, and she had just undergone some terrible things in her life, and I was watching her dog, and I took him outside, and there was a sudden bolt of thunder and lightning, and the rain came pouring down, and I grabbed his collar, and it came off in my hand, and I thought, this is what friends are for. So, you know, maybe not for every day, but at the dog park, I would absolutely recommend a breakaway collar, because it stops any damage to the other dog's jaw and any damage to your dog's neck. Again, look out for direct, straight running. That's not normal unless it's chasing something. And that should be, you should get one of those feelings. A lot of the times as we get familiar with dog body language, which you know, it's more than an evening, but we'll get some, you get this feeling. And when I was fostering this beagle that I was later to become owned by, she came up from the, you know, I live in Somerville, and I have a little dog yard, and I was on the porch talking on the phone, and she came up from the dog yard and started walking by me, and I'm reaching for the door, and I went, there's something funny here, and I looked at her, and I thought, dogs don't walk with their mouths closed. And I looked, and there were 2 feet sticking out of her mouth. She had caught a bird. So that was a good thing that I noticed that, and so I did not want that bird in the house. But you should listen to that sort of like, there's something, you know, listen to that. Get used to listening to that.
What about things like standoffs, where the dogs are like 10 yards apart, they're both playing, but they're both paused looking at each other, and then one of them flinches and they both run towards each other? One of them usually veers off.
So the question for Facebook land is, what about standoffs when 2 dogs are some feet apart and they have been playing? They do that sort of pause, stare, and then they launch. I would say most of the time that's great. That's just taking a break. That means that there is some self-control there, that they haven't lost their minds. But as you will see throughout this thing, context is everything. You'll also see, I don't have it in this presentation, but you'll see dogs that we often call the fun police, who are splitters, and they do a really good job of that. So you'll see 2 dogs playing, and before the human brain has said, oh, wait a minute, you know, this splitter dog or the fun police will go through and will go right between them. And it's magic when they do it. It's so great. They always do it right, and the dogs are like, you know, oh, fine. You know? And sometimes you'll see one of the fun police dogs having to do that over and over again, and then, is this psychedelic? And then, when that, I would have worn something more beady. And then, you know, when they do that, they just do a really good job of that. You should emulate that. I mean, when we do the dog festival, we have, can you remember how many thousands of people? And many, many, many people bring their dogs, and it's not that big space. And one of the primary tasks of our volunteers is to walk between dogs. Not like nose-to-nose dogs, but like, oh look, there's that dog and there's that dog, and they just sort of saw each other. And remember, they're on leash; they can't exhibit normal body language. And we just walk, you know, and kind of break the sight line for a minute. But it's a good question, and I think what to do about the standoffs is look at context.
Yep.
Is it actually a standoff, or is it play and taking a break? I mentioned collars, and then I'll mention play styles now. No one in this room has a Doberman, so I can safely say Dobermans are jerks, right? They think it's hysterical when, you know, they're, oh, I didn't ask you what kind of dog you have. If you say Doberman, I'm gonna die. Okay.
No, no.
So, but Dobermans are loud and dramatic, and they like a lot of big shark mouths or shamu play. I had a client once whose son deployed. She had an older Doberman and he had a younger Doberman, and she had taken the dog, and I had met with both the mother and the son previously, but in different places. And she called me the day he deployed, completely hysterical. They're killing each other, they're killing each other, they're killing. And I went like running over there, and I said, where are they? And she goes, they're outside, and she was crying, and there was like makeup everywhere. And I go outside, and she had a pool in her backyard, which was not that large. It was a city yard. And then she had paved all around, and these two jerks were going at it. And the two of them are like, you know, at each other's throats, literally, and they're going back and forth, and they would stop, and either one would go, do it again, and then they do it again. You know, they loved it. Two Dobermans playing is like, you know, witnessing a really fun murder scene. But, you know, but that is not the best play style with, for instance, a Newfoundland or any other dog, but you know, maybe a Swissy. But it's, you know, it's something to pay attention to. It's never about, is this a nice dog, or is this a good dog, or is that a bad dog? It's about, what is this play style like, and how out of control are we? This dog, look at those ears, maybe a slightly worried look. I would look at this carefully because there's a Swissy in the back, and that's my breed, but also because that's a smaller dog in front with the other dogs chasing him or her. That's a pointer. That might be a little whale-eyed, we call it, and we'll get to that later, but that is when, if I'm looking at you, but I think there's a monster over there, or I think you're a monster, but I want to see what's over there, I'm going to look that way, and the whites of my eyes are going to show because my attention is literally being divided, and so you'll see this big moon eye or whale eye, something to look for. And this guy, he's having way too much fun. And I don't know whether he's going for this one or this one, but that dog has something in mind that's not just, I'm running. And the Swissy just can't catch up. And the other thing is forward leaning. We're going to look at a video in a bit, and forward leaning dogs that are stiff, that are serious, and when they're sort of pointed like an arrow, you need to look out for that too. That's not it.
We have a question online regarding a dog who likes to growl and other stuff when playing, and it makes other people nervous when the dog's growling while playing.
It's a really normal play behavior. Play comes from the sequence that is, I will get it wrong right now, it is the eye, stalk, chase, catch, shake, kill.
Till you shake, kill.
Yeah, you don't usually kill and play, but but growling is a really normal part of play. Many dogs do it. I would say maybe even most in the right circumstances. It's very typical to hear growling in tug, which goes to that shake sequence. You know, all of that the puppies learn in the wild of, I don't know, my living room, but they learn that, and it's in them, and then they practice it, and that's what play is. Play, herding, all of that stuff are parts of those sequence, interrupted or isolated. Without the kill part, that's naughty. And so growling should never be, let me put it this way, again, text, growling as play is fine, it's great, you see it in Tug a lot, you see it with other dogs a lot. If you just went near his bone or the couch where he was sitting on and you hear a growl, that's a different growl.
Or if a dog comes up to one other dog. there's
Right.
a growl.
Right.
There's no play.
Growling without the play, naughty. Okay. Behavior. I wasn't sure how much behavior and how much body language to put in repeats. It means that what that thing ended up resulting in was good. So if I grab my water bottle and I get to drink, that's good. I was thirsty, so I will do that again. The behavior was reaching for a bottle, right? And the drinking is the consequence. And the smallest, I will, if this is torture to you guys, let me know, I'll zoom ahead and do a video. The most basic unit is behavior is ABC, antecedent, behavior, consequence. And an antecedent is the thing that came first. Geeks could argue about which part of this or all of this is the antecedent, but there are none of those geeks here, so we're just gonna go with this. Every morning after I have breakfast, Fluffy runs into the kitchen as soon as she hears the dishwasher open. I usually give her the leftover bits of toast and egg from my plate before I load them into the dishwasher. The antecedent here is she hears the dishwasher open. That's the thing that comes first. And this is the behavior. What's the actual behavior we're looking at? It's the running into the kitchen. So that's the behavior. And then the consequence is she gets eggs and toast. That is the ABC of a behavior. And whenever we see a behavior in a dog or a husband or whatever, you know, we can look at that same thing and say, what's the antecedent? What's the behavior? You start with, what's the behavior? Okay, this person is drumming her fingers on the table and it's making me insane. What's the antecedent to that? Margie talking. What's the consequence? She doesn't have to hear Margie as loudly. So, you know, we can look at that and then we can ameliorate it. And if you change the consequence, you change, ABC, dishwasher, we just did that. If you change the consequence, you change the behavior. Yes?
We have another question.
Is it an ABA graduate? Because I'm screwed. Okay.
Regarding drooling. The dog drools more than the average dog, and the owner wants to know, she brings paper towels and other things to try and keep him clean, but he drools a lot, and what's proper etiquette, or how do you
I would just give up
that?
having friends, but is this a breed? Is this Saint Bernard or another breed of a specific breed of dog? Is it a Saint Bernard or one of those sloppy mouth things?
Not sure.
Okay. So that kind of drooling is not uncommon in the big Galumphy breeds and some smaller ones. Some of the pits do that much less, but some of the Mastiffs do that. Saint Bernards, Newfoundlands, and because you wouldn't want that just in a small dog where it would be hardly noticeable. You always want that to be in an enormous dog where it's gallons of it.
It's golden.
A what?
A golden.
A golden. So is it? So there are some medical conditions that can cause that, and so it's worth getting your dog vetted. But I've also known a lot of really ropey, drooly Goldens in my time, and it could be how much water they have beforehand. It could just be the way they are, and so.
I've also heard that coming to the dog park or getting super excited tends to increase their drool level anyways.
Exactly, it does. Excitation does, and also exertion does. So, you know, keep the dog hydrated, keep a towel with you, and, you know, try to not get them to shake around the front.
Could it be nerves if their dog's scared or not necessarily?
No, it's that kind of drooling, that sort of ropey, nasty stuff, is not usually a nerves thing. You will absolutely see drooling when they're scared, but if this is an ongoing thing, and if we can assume the dog is having fun and interacting and playing, then I would say that that's just what that dog is like. When we're looking at a behavior, and again, we can skip past this if you think this is not where the focus should be. We need to describe the behavior and not the whatever story we have around it, whatever sort of lore or labeling we have on that. So, if we want to see and solve a problem, we need to identify the problem. If we say aggression is a problem, what is aggression? It's certainly not a thing you can excise surgically, right? There isn't an aggression gene. That we know of. It's not a single gene. And so aggression is a cluster of behaviors. So is friendly. So we have to get just the facts, right? And so if we take off the label, we can then look at what we're looking at more clearly to see what we want to apply the ABCs to. Okay, what are these behaviors and which one of them might we address first to sort of help ease or change these behaviors? So stubborn, what does stubborn look like to you guys? If I say a dog is stubborn? Because we always know what we mean, mostly, right? So a stubborn dog is a dog that doesn't do what he's told when you tell him to. The first thing I might ask somebody with a stubborn dog is, how well do you actually train that stuff? You know, and in what surrounding? Well, he knows it perfectly in my kitchen. Then we go to the dog park, and the damn dog doesn't do the thing. Yeah, I know your problem, man. And aggressive. Aggressive is such a relative term. I've used this before in both presentations and with clients. And so if I'm in a bar, which could happen, and I'm just standing there, you know, I have my drink and I'm talking to friends, and some guy walks over and he's like being really loud and really close. And he goes, oh, like this, and I sort of get backed in to a corner by this person who's just not getting the hint that I'm trying to talk to my friends. He's not stopping, and he's being real pushy. And I ask him to go away and tell him to stop, and he just gets so close and I punch him. Am I being aggressive? It's a good question, right? I wouldn't think so. I would be violent.
Defending
Yeah,
yourself.
you're defending yourself. Yeah.
So that's context, right? Context matters.
Yeah.
Right? So, is the guy being aggressive? I think so, but it wasn't a punch. Context matters. And that's how you look at all of this stuff with dogs. What is friendly with a dog? You know, there are people that define friendly really differently. I think friendly, for me, a friendly dog is one that wants to be near me, kind of wants to glom on. I don't mind dogs that want to lean a hip on mine. You know, I kind of like a Velcro-y, smooshy thing. That's a technical term. But a lot of people think that that's a pushy dog. And they want a friendly dog to be a dog that says, you know, hello, human, I am at your bidding. I will stay a nice distance away. I will wag when I see you. And I will not come and get fur all over your suit. To me, that's an aloof dog. Right? So labels are super annoying because they can mean different things to different people. And of course, not listening is my favorite one. That dog's not listening. Well, why? Are you boring? You know, does the dog not understand what you're saying?
I find with mine, he doesn't listen when he doesn't want to do what I want him to do.
And why doesn't he want to do it?
Because I want him to come in the house, or I want him, you know what I'm saying? And he doesn't want to.
Not an idiot.
It's as easy as that.
And that's what I use as my example. When my dog won't come when I call her, right? Does she have something better to do? Have you offered her something better to do than be outside? I hope you know that woman, sir. And have you adequately trained it? Have you trained the recall? Like if every time you call her in, that's the last time she gets to be inside for a long time, that's an error. Call her in, give her a cookie, let her go. Go back outside. She's gonna be like, have you lost your mind, human? That's not what we do. And you're like, ah, it is now. And do that a few times and see how that changes, see how the approach changes. And have you proofed it? Have you, it's old dog trainer speak in me, but have you done this in other settings? I used to give clients the Dr. Seuss training sheet, and it said, have you done this by a tree? Have you done it on your knee? Have you done it in your car? Have you done it from afar? Have you done it on your bed? Have you done it on your head? And it had a whole bunch of things to try for proofing behaviors or tricks or whatever we were doing with these animals. And I had somebody come in once with a picture of her husband telling his dog to do something on his head. And it was just the best. It was like, wow, you did the whole sheet. A word about training.
Oh, excuse me?
Yes.
I have my beagle, and Kathy's experienced it also. He does what we call a plop and drop.
Mm-hmm.
He's down at the dog park.
Yep.
He's done it sightseeing. He does it all the time. He just drops and will not budge.
And you want him to,
But I've had to pick him up.
to come. So what are you giving him that's better than the dog park?
I mean, I've petted him. I can't bring food
So,
to
but
the
that's
dog
not
park.
it then. Right. So what if every time you step out of that dog park, and you do this one day, you've got a leash on him, you go into the dog park when nobody's there, and then you step out, park as close as you can to it, I don't know how close the park is, give him a piece of steak,
Mhm.
and then put him back in the dog park. And then call him, take him out, give him a piece of steak.
I mean, he does it everywhere though. It's just not at the dog park. We could walk in the woods. I could be
Yeah.
walking in my neighborhood. I mean, it doesn't matter the environment.
But he's also an elderly beagle.
So, I mean, elderly beagles, well, none of us are equipped. But the, you know,
I just wanna make
there-
that clear, it's
there are
elderly.
a lot of things that we can do to, again, let's ABC that, you
Mhm.
know, and then let's think about what we've offered the dog instead. I'm gonna get to that in, I think, the next slide, but I don't know if I have the right presentation, so it might not be. I will get to that momentarily. Lisa will tell me to. Positive reinforcement is what we need to use, and that flies in the face of a lot of thinking. It is true that, you know, showing them who's boss or dominance or whatever you want to call it, training can have an effect. I mean, you can get behaviors you want. The problem is, first of all, that it's a crappy way to run a railroad. Why would you want that relationship with your animal? You don't need to have it that way. It really damages the human-animal bond. And this is something that's so known, but when we have these things instilled in us, it's hard to get rid of them. And the more frustrated we get, or what I would say to myself, the more I realize what a bad trainer I am being in that moment, the more likely we are to mete out punishment or to escalate what we're doing. So you'll see people popping choke collars, and you'll see people, you know, on shock collars, and you'll see prongs, and you'll see people yelling at their dogs. And it doesn't last. Positive reinforcement training tends to last longer. If you train that behavior and you've done it using what that dog finds reinforcing, whether that's food or cuddles or scritches or all of the above, or chasing a frisbee or a ball or playing with a toy, that behavior will be installed in a much better way, and the maintenance of that behavior when you're practicing training doesn't mean you have to do something that your dog doesn't like. Why would we do that? But it is so installed in us that that's how we have to do. When the going gets tough, I have to do this for the betterment of the dog, and so he doesn't think that he's the boss of me. That is ludicrous. We have thumbs. We win. And so, but it is a really hard thing to get over. And we could spend an entire night, and I'm happy to, talking about the different kinds of training and why, and the science behind all of it. But there are real reasons to use it besides, you know, morality. There are real reasons to do that. And the key to good training is this. You need to tell the animal what to do. And now I'm going to play my sadistic game. And if you guys will do it, it would be great. If you would actually do this. So right now, whatever you're doing with your left hand, don't do that with your left hand. So, no, don't do that. No, don't do that. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that with your, no, don't do that, right? That's what it's like when we say to a dog, don't bark. Okay, should I pee on a couch? No, you know, should I maybe go to the kitchen? No, well, should I chase? No, you know, there are so many ways to be wrong. And to us, it seems normal. Of course, you're not going to do those other things. We need to tell them what to do instead. And if you actually want the behavior to change, that's what you need to do. I was speaking earlier to these guys about the need to not give them dead man behaviors. And they're called that because you've got a dog that's barking all the time and it's driving you crazy. And so I say, well, what would you like the dog to do instead? And you say, I want the dog to stop barking. Well, a dead man cannot bark, right? What would you like the dog to do that's an actual behavior? Well, I want it to, you know, I don't want it to run. Well, a dead man cannot run, you know. Don't do dead man behaviors. Focus on something that you can get that dog to do that you can reinforce him for doing. What a good boy. You just went to your mat, or you just got a toy, or you just, I don't know, figured out Pythagorean's theory. So whatever that is, you know, you want to find something that dog can do honestly, I find touch, I'm an anomaly apparently. I like to do touch with 2 fingers because this is so often either stop or stay or I'm gonna smack you. I do 2 fingers for touch, and touch is such a good exercise to teach dogs, and you can do so many things with it, and you can even get them out of a place with it. You need to on your nose, and they follow it and
Do
you're
you
out.
wanna explain touch?
Touch is training a dog to target and touch with its nose, in this case, your fingers. And the way you do that is the cheat way to do it, you totally cheat, is to touch something like liverwurst or chicken with your finger, put it out there, the dogs will go, you're gonna go, yes, and then you give that dog a treat. Genius. And that finger becomes, or those fingers become a target very quickly. Again, I'm happy to put up all these training tips for you. I'll send them all to Will and teach you how. But these are really important things because it's a good holdover behavior. We gotta get from my car to that vet's office and not through the waiting room without him snarking at anybody. All of those things, it's a great behavior for that. I have said that the wisdom of focusing on positive reinforcement training probably became clear when the first person tried to put a choke collar on an orca. We don't train any other animal the way we train dogs, except maybe human kids. So we don't use that kind of punishment. We don't use that kind of sort of aversive and relationship busting and potentially fatal, punishment or aversive training on any other animal because it wouldn't work. The fact that it can work on dogs is not a reason to do it. It's just not. And there's so many good resources online now. I like Kiko Pup. She's the one I send everybody to, Kiko Pup. And I just saw doing this, in fact, putting this together, that she has a leash walking course, and that loose leash walking is hard to teach. And so I bet it's good because she's good, but I don't know anything about it. What am I looking at? So this is about learning to speak dog. Context is everything, right? Not all wagging tails mean a happier, friendly dog, and not all smiles are friendly. What's the difference between this guy's smile, which is scary, and this guy's smile, which is open and warm and inviting? I don't know if y'all know who this is, but that's Ted Bundy. Naughty, naughty man. And so, but he's got a smile on his face. It's a cold smile. But you could say they're both smiling. You know, this man, I have no idea who he is. I probably owe him royalties by now or something. Has what is clearly an open and inviting and warm smile. They're both smiles. One of them is terrifying, one of them is not. There's more to communication than a single behavior. It's simply, that's the way we always have to think, right? So, there's the eyes. I just went the wrong way. There's the eyes. His eyes or his eyes? Which would you like to invite over for dinner? And so if you look at a lot of different behaviors put together is when you get context. And it can be hard to do when things are moving fast. What did I do? Oh, when things are moving fast, am I moving?
No.
The Facebook is adding stuff to the faces.
They put nightcaps on both of the pictures.
So that's really helpful with the smile talk.
Yeah.
So, I kind of feel like I've made it somehow, like I've been censored. This is a very important day for me. I need a moment. But the other thing is that it's really hard to see all these things when things are moving fast. It's okay, Facebook. It's gone. A lot of people think, as I said, that a wagging tail means a happy and friendly dog, and that's often true. But tails convey a whole lot of information that is not just happy. And sometimes differences in wags are subtle, sometimes they're very obvious, but we need to look at the entire dog to see what's going on. And then I have a note here to talk about what aroused means. Do you guys hear that term a lot? Is this entered the dog park thing? People say, well, that dog is just super aroused. Yeah, I guess it could mean horny, but it shouldn't. And what it actually means usually is elevated or up or activated or about dogs with dog tails is that they often can't communicate their language effectively.
All right, there we go.
I just sort of proud that I've been censored and it's problematic.
It wasn't censored, they literally put like, nightcaps on. They like put nightcaps on, it wasn't in front.
Oh, that's a little disappointing.
Yeah.
Okay. Dogs with dog tails often can't communicate very well with other dogs, or are often misunderstood by other dogs. So one of the reasons you often say, well, boxers, they're always trouble, or pits, or corgis, or rotties, or whoever else we decide to mutilate for fashion. You know, the reason that they can't be, oh, they're always getting into fights. I don't know that there's any evidence that they get into fights more, but I know that after 40 years in this, you will see a lot of miscommunication between dogs with dog tails and dogs with natural tails. And part of that is because tails are such an important signaling device in dog body language. So it's something to be aware of. If something's going a little awry and you see that there's one or two dogs there with a dog tail and that dog's involved in it, that may have something to do with it. They may not. That was not science. That was an observation. So displacement behaviors are another thing you see a lot. I had a client once tell me that, you know, a giant purple monster could walk up behind her dog and he'd never notice. You know, he would just keep sniffing the grass, and that he was a complete idiot. And I actually felt a little sad about that because I think her dog was a lot smarter than possibly her. Because that's not what's going on. A dog will notice a giant purple monster coming up, I guarantee you. But what would he do about it? Displacement behaviors are something we see all the time. They are, I don't know, I used to use, when a cop car pulls up next to you and you're in your car and you fiddle with the radio button, but now we don't have radio buttons, so it's totally ruined that image for me. But you know, you literally, it didn't matter whether you've done anything or not. You know, it's like police car pulls up, oh, what station should I listen to? You know, it's just a displacement behavior. It's a mild display, possibly mild display of a mild anxiety, a display of a mild anxiety. And displacement behaviors are constant and everywhere in our world, in all our species, but these are very common displacement behaviors. Yawning. Unless your dog is tired, there's not a lot of reason to yawn, you know. But if another dog just zoomed by, you know, okay, you know. Sniffing, the big one. Sniffing is a huge displacement behavior. La la la, oh look, that's the most fascinating piece of grass I have ever seen. I do not notice this purple monster coming up behind me. Scratching is super common, and it drives owners crazy because it also often jingles the tag. And so it's like, every time I call this dog to come, he just starts scratching, then that tag's going on. It's like, we need to work on your recall. I think recall might not be as fun for him as it is for you because he's anxious, you know, and not like needing therapy anxious, but there's some anxiety in that response, and that's a displacement.
And that's all context too, right? So the dog could actually sniff outside to go to the bathroom, but.
Or he could, right, I mean, the beagle literally cannot go to the bathroom without sniffing. And sometimes there's stuff on the grass that's interesting, and sometimes they're itchy, and sometimes they're tired. Context is king. I mean, that is everything. And my least favorite but funniest displacement behavior is the humping. That is, you know, an unfortunate creature, this one, and a very patient person apparently. But, and then we do it. So if you're in an elevator and, you know, there's one or two other people, not enough for nobody to notice anybody, the first thing we do is pull out our phones.
No, I thought you were going to say humpy. Okay.
Or hump.
Where elevators are you in?
I only ride in those party elevators. I mean, you can hump, but I don't think that's a displacement behavior. I think that might get you in the poke.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we you know, checking our nails is a common displacement behavior, or you know, do I have something on my shoulder? You know, just a purple monster, and so I'm, you know, doing this. Displacement behaviors are literally everywhere, and you're exactly right. Context is key. Sometimes I actually got a message that I want, not so much, but sometimes. Now, there's something called calming signals that there's no real reason to think they're calming signals, but that's what they're commonly called, and so we don't have to argue with it. but they are appeasement or distance increasing or de-escalation signals. I think that they serve more than one purpose. And they are often a way to sort of, as I said, de-escalate, cut the tension, or avoid an unfortunate interaction. You will now see these everywhere. So yawning, as I said, lip licking, and tongue flicking. Tongue flicking is a higher grade of anxiety than lip licking, but you'll see that lip lick a lot in dogs. And the head turn, which is, sorry, going out of order, is, oh my God, they all do it 1,000 times a day. You will see this, or should learn to see this everywhere. It doesn't mean something's horribly wrong. It just means, ooh, you know, did you eat my lunch? And we take that as guilt. It's not guilt. Another thing about guilt is, people say, I know when my dog's done something because I come in the door and that dog looks so guilty. That dog's not guilty. Dogs probably can't feel guilt. One of the few things they don't share with us, but now having a beagle, I'm pretty convinced. But what that is a learning history, a reinforcement or punishment history. So it is likely when that happens that you have come in before, found something awry, and yelled at the dog. And if that's happened once, that's all you wrote. For the rest of time, if that dog has done, if anything different about that day has occurred when you walk in that door, the dog is likely to have that guilty look. It's not guilt, it's fear, honestly, or anxiety. Body freezes are a little more serious. And again, this is big contextually. Sometimes you'll do that standoff, as you described, where they're like this.
Yep.
But they're not really frozen, right? They're just still. But their mouths are still open, and they're just not moving. A closed mouth on a dog is not a happy, relaxed state. It could be trying to smuggle a bird into the house, or it could be something else. But it's not normal in terms of sort of relaxed play. And the whale eye I told you about earlier, where you're trying to focus on two areas, or there's an anxiety response happening in one area, and you're going to see the whites of their eyes, and that's really clear once you see it. And freezes, there's somewhere on the internet, there's a video of a freeze that I and all of my colleagues thought was a still picture. It was the most incredible thing. I'll try to find it and send it to Will. It was a dog that was absolutely frozen for over a minute. And it's incredible, and that is a pretty significant stress response. Mm-hmm.
I see my Corgi Boston Terrier do it at the park.
Yep.
But then she, it's like hunting mode almost, and then she goes to run.
So the question was, or the comment was, that she sees her little dog do this at the park sometimes, almost in a hunting mode, and then run, and that's more of a stalk.
Okay.
Which is maybe a precursor or something related to that standoff. Okay. So the dog is playing, the dog like this.
Yeah.
But I bet her mouth is open. She has to be. She's pretty cephalic.
Yeah.
She can't breathe. But her mouth is open, and then she goes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
That is different than. Can you come here a sec? Than a freeze, which is Lisa comes up to me, and I'm a little scared of her, and I go like this, and I do not move. Okay. It's such a different thing.
It's the difference between a dog that's slightly still and a dog that's frozen.
Yeah.
It's subtle, but it's definitely different.
I've said for years that there's a difference between calm and still, right? People say, I'm going to go get my dog to calm down by having him lie on that mat. So I think he's probably still as worked up, but lying on the mat. So calm and still are not the same, and frozen and still are not the same. A furrowed, worried brow is, one of the stress signals. And a tense jaw and a closed mouth can be stress, can be an illicit bird coming into the house. A low tail carriage, tail wagging is like a whole other seminar, but there's that loopy sort of helicopter wag when that dog is just loose and the butt's kind of going and the tail's going, and that's a really relaxed, happy dog generally. But when that tail is low.
Question on licking. So when the dog licks people's or other dogs' faces, is that being nervous or just saying hi?
Context, it depends, but there is a submissive behavior that dogs do to other dogs to kind of say, no, it's okay, I come in peace, and they'll go underneath. It's thought to be part of how puppies get their mothers to regurgitate food. And so, but luckily all the dogs don't throw up on each other when this happens. And so, but they lick and they come up from under and they lick. If it's like that, then it's probably a greeting that says, I come in peace, hi, you know, I'm super friendly and I'm not gonna like get in your face. If it's like, I always lick you, then it's just obnoxious. That's the technical term. Unless you like it, in which case it's fantastic, or you have lotion on. I had one dog once that was like, oh my God, this lotion got on you again, let me get that off.
Boston Terrier Corgi licks all the time. She licks our beagle, she licks me, she licks my daughter, she licks my husband, but we did read about Boston Terriers and they're prone to licking.
So, licking, damn you context. Licking is obviously a natural behavior. It's context appropriate at times. It's sometimes context inappropriate, but just weird. But sometimes it's compulsive. And when it's compulsive, it's a real problem. And that needs a veterinary behaviorist or a behavior consultant to help you work on that. So if there's a dog that cannot stop licking its paws to the point of barbering and having, you know, no fur left, if
Never
there's a
licks
dog
paws.
that can't stop licking the floor or couches, there's a lot of very sad compulsive behaviors. But you know, the first thing if I see a dog licking itself a lot is go to the vet. Maybe the dog has allergies. When was the last time that dog had a bath? Because there's a lot of pollen out right now, and things like that.
Yeah, she never licks herself, it's just
Others.
by other dog and others, yeah.
That's the Boston part of her.
Okay, yep.
But to answer the Facebook question, licking is, if it's okay with you and it's not injurious to others or itself, then it's just licking. If it is licking and greeting, then that's licking and greeting. If the dog then follows other dogs around the park licking, then that's just weird, and you might want to work on that. And then piloerection, which is when the hair stands up on the back of the dog's back. And you can see it, all of a sudden everything's a ridgeback, right? It's got that big strip, and sometimes it even spreads farther out. That is a dog that is worried or potentially activated. You want to be a little bit careful for and of those dogs. Not that they're all going to kill us in our sleep, but that's a dog who is now activated to a point where it's unlikely. That's not true. Sometimes it goes away very quickly. Sometimes when it won't go away and you see other stuff in context going on, that's a dog that might need help. You know, let's get you out of here from that. And the twitching whiskers is just bizarre. I mean, you don't see that often because it's hard to see, but when you see it, it's like, first thing you say is like, cool, get your camera, film it, send it to me, and then take the dog somewhere. And then these ones, however, are really important to note. Shaking and drooling, not like normal, you know, goober drool, but all of a sudden the dog's standing there and not really able to move, and there's drool coming out, and it's really in distress. That needs to, you know, be paid attention to. That panting, it sounds like sandpaper kind of, and it's called dry panting, and it's so distinctive when you hear it. Not that's a dog that's either hot or been playing, but you know that it's really distinct sound. That's a stressed dog. That's a really stressed dog. And paw prints, if you can see sweaty paw prints, that's an emergency. That dog needs to get out of Dodge. That's a really significant body display. So this Zoom room makes the best videos on YouTube about dog behavior. It's got a long start because I'm terrible at editing. And I have permission to use them. And now we're going to look at a whole bunch of these expressions and we're going to check it out for ourselves. They did a great job of getting pictures that are exactly right. Shockingly, the internet can sometimes be wrong. You know, worried dogs. And so this is what we were talking about. Those ears pinned back, that furrowed brow. These dogs just plain look worried, and this one looks like it's going to have a psychotic break. Alan just got caught eating something. And who's worried in this picture?
The sick
Mm-hmm. Right. How can we tell? Closed mouth, just a whole different demeanor, right? Doesn't mean every time a dog closes its mouth it's worried. Here are some stress signals. And, yeah, and so it's also like, okay, chill, buddy, chill, you know. And I don't know about the common signals, but that's what we call them. Paw up is such a big deal, and you'll see it a lot. And it can be fleeting, and then everything's fine, but maybe not. There's your whale eye that I was talking about. There's a lip lick or a nose lick. There's also flicking that they do with their tongues. There's a relaxed dog, right? I mean, he's not like chill, he's not on the couch relaxed. He's like, oh, this is cool, I'm having fun, right? I'm ready to run. So is this one. See that tail set? Nice and low. Very relaxed, yes. Frog dog. Here's a nervous dog. There's that body compressed. I refer to it as compressed body. That tail tucked, that back end, like I'm not even here. The paw retreating, the hiding. And nervous dogs are more likely to bite. Not because they are mean. So, who's nervous? Mouth closed, ears back, he's worried, his paws raised. Closed mouth, ears forward, tail upright. That's a whole different stance, right? That's a confidence dog. Those Bostons. You see the difference? I think they do such a good job of this. I would not want to be the bunny in that one. That you'll see that all the time in parks is that sort of putting your chin over another dog's back. It's kind of obnoxious. It's also normal. So here is a slow-mo of two dogs meeting on a beach. It's also shot from very far away. But that tail set, it's wagging, right? So he's happy, except he's not. And this isn't friendly, you know. And here it is again, that stiff tail, and that dog's going, yeah, I'm good. Then they do their sniffing. Nobody's approached anybody sort of frontally and directly in a straight line. They're doing all these appropriate curves, but still, he's weirdly stiff, right? For a dog that's kind of curving, like, I'm good. See you later. Meanwhile, here are relaxed dogs. See how loopy those tails are, how they're curved? These dogs are just loose, is the best word I can find to describe them. So does this dog want to play? Nah. Everybody's scared of border collies. Not true. Here's some danger signs. I mean, most of us kind of understand that teeth showing is a danger sign, but it's not always. Yeah. This dog is terrified. Absolutely terrified. And here's some freezing. So, funny they would pick a beagle with an object. Resource guarding is where you'll often see freezing. And so if you go to put your hand in to get something, they're like, nah. This person is just not too smart. And they're tormenting their dog, but I appreciate it for the video. This isn't freezing, obviously. This is saying no. No, thank you. This is the number one thing you really need to look out for. You do not want a shiny-eyed dog in a frontal position to you, staring you in the eye. Your blood should run cold when that happens, and it doesn't matter if it's a Chihuahua or a Karelian bear dog. We just don't want that to happen. They also have this one, which is the play gestures. Again, it's editing, sorry for the long start. And this is really great for the dog park, I think, right? So you've got those bows. You've got that. Not all bows are play bows, but those are good. That loopiness, that circular kind of. It's fun. Here's bouncy. Bouncy plays a great way to put it. Do it again. Do it again. Yes. Now, that little black dog went down for a minute, and the white dog, trampled on him once, but then said, oh, sorry, you need a minute? That conversation is going on. Can you see it? Can you hear it now? Balanced play, we call it. Yep.
Jack and Winnie.
And except of course for Dobermans. So here is when they just want you to bite them all the time. Again, there's the pausing, there's a taking a break. Nobody's getting so off their head that they can't control themselves. That's lovely play. That's what you want. It's the dogs, nice dogs, that just can't stop because often it's the only thing they do that really wears them out. And then, you know, things go wrong, but not because it's a bad dog. Here's the pinning, or neck biting as they call it. And it is not the end of the world. Neck biting is not the end of the world. Pinning is a problem. And this again can go wrong. These dogs are wrestling. These dogs are wrestling. Obviously the one lying on its back is not that worried. And this is what I was saying earlier about not usually with 2 dogs, but things can go wrong more easily with 3 or more dogs. Often odd numbers, but not always. Dogs that don't share well. You don't have toys in the park either.
The occasional stick from the park mulch.
Everything's a toy when you're a dog. It's a good thing. And then that, you know, interrupt if the dogs get zoomies and start running out of control. That's not right. You want to interrupt before that, because once they're doing that, you're just going to get kneecapped. But this is, again, I hope this is clear to you guys. It's something you feel as much as something you observe. And so you get the feeling that at any time somebody would go, oh, wait a second, I gotta fix my back, you know, and the other one would listen. Stalking, a lot of them do like to stalk, and a lot of times it's play. It's something I will not allow my dog to be stalked. Doesn't matter what size dog I've ever had. If a dog is doing that, it can go bad so fast, I don't like it. And I know there are people that would disagree with me, and that's fine. My personal tolerance is that I don't want a dog coming at my dog in a stalk with the owner saying, it's okay, he always does it, he's playing. I'm like, well, I'm not. Get that dog away from my dog. And watch this husky. You know, you just never see this with huskies. Remember I was talking about Bert and Ernie? And that, like, when Wilma tried to disengage, one of them was just barking right in her face. That is kind of a rude and also threatening behavior on the part of the barker. That dog didn't leave right away because he wasn't sure if he could without that escalating everything to a fight. This hurts me to watch. So when dogs are slamming dogs and rolling them over at speed, absolutely not okay. The dog that's slamming needs to be leashed and given some time, and if that's his play style, it needs to stop. It may not do that. Body slamming, in my opinion, is never okay. And the neck biting, which is very common in dog play and 100% fine, is when people's dogs' jaws get caught in collars, and terrible things can happen. So,
Yeah, that almost happened to my 2 puppies.
Yeah, I take off any equipment in the dog park.
Yep, that's what I do
And
now.
put on a breakaway collar, because that way somebody can grab the dog if need be. There's identification on the dog if they get out or something. But if some dog grabs that dog's collar and flips it, or a jaw gets caught, the collar will break apart. So breakaway collars are very much something that I would recommend in a dog park, and no other equipment, no harnesses, no nothing. Nothing that can catch another dog's jaw. That dog needs to stop that. And that little dog was absolutely helpless. Yeah. One thing I don't remember if they do it in here, we often laugh at dogs that are up on a picnic table, or behind people's legs, or under a picnic table, or behind a trash can, but also often going to people, you know. Those dogs are literally asking for help. They need help, and they're doing everything they can to tell any human, because their human is probably on the cell phone, which I think should be a shooting offense at the dog park. But, you know, we should be focused on those dogs. We should move around. If we all stand in one place, the dogs will cluster too. But dogs that are going behind people's legs, that are going under things, on top of things, unless it's play, leaping, those dogs are asking for help, and we need to pay attention to that. It is to me a tragedy when I see so many hours of footage on YouTube with people laughing at this dog, little coward, or whatever. That dog needs help, and they're asking for it from the people who are supposed to take care of them.
So my dog likes to be high.
Yeah.
She does King of the Hill.
That's why
Queen of
we
the
have
Hill.
the psychedelic camera stuff.
Yes. And her going up on the picnic table is basically just, hey, I'm higher than you are. And she doesn't get upset about other dogs
Nope.
being on top with her, but
That's
she wants to
different
be
behavior. So the dogs that are on top of a table asking for help are not engaging. They may be compressed, they may be tucked, they may be trying to get behind a human, very typically behind a human's calves or legs, depending on the size of the dog. They may be going under the bench.
high. And what about the
looking.
dogs that squeeze between the people's legs they're in the middle of play and they squeeze between the people's legs kind of as
They might need a break.
Okay.
So because they're looking for help doesn't mean they should never ever play again, right? It just means some of them shouldn't. But it might also mean, I'm just gonna go here where these people are and I might just need a break. Gee, I hope my owner yells at me for a minute. So we don't know. I mean, again, I can't tell you out of context, but the dogs that kneecap you, don't like that, but so if they're slamming into humans to hear them yell, that's a different thing. Watch this puppy annoys this very patient coach, which is exactly right. And dogs really do understand at what point. Stop it! At Golden, there's a place in heaven.
My beagle isn't very interactive. I mean, he would just
Yeah.
rather go to people to person,
Yeah.
be petted. That's,
Yeah.
I don't take that as any.
No, you know what? I mean, if you said to me, "You want to go to a playground?" I'd be like, "Have you lost your squash?" Of course not. I'm a grown-ass woman. I want to watch NCIS. One other thing is leashes. Leashes really do prevent natural dog behavior. I am not saying don't leash your dogs, but be aware of that. Sidewalks are a disaster for a lot of dogs because you are forcing them to walk in a 6-foot wide line directly towards each other, which we know is fighting words in dog language. Because when you see that and they're off leash, there's problems. When you see that and you're in the city, you're forcing them to do that, and then we say, "Oh, this dog just snaps at every dog. My dog's reactive." Might be, but we're also setting them up. So we've seen these now, and those are again on YouTube, as is apparently everything. But this time, let's look at that original thing where I said, other dogs are in the wild, and meanwhile our dogs are like this. What do you see with this dog? So I see shiny, hard eyes, and a closed mouth, and the lack of all dignity. What do you see?
He looks embarrassed.
He does, but he also has a paw raised, his face is down, he's got a worried mark, his body is compressed. That's a very sad, stressed dog. What do you see?
He's licking.
Lick,
He's
lick.
licking.
And that's not because there's food, that's not yum yum, lick lick.
Yep.
That's a big curled over the nose, lick lick. What do you see? Besides ridiculousness,
His eyes are
whale
just.
eyes and closed mouth, and is this a happy dog? And I left this here because I was so annoyed at the fact that somebody would think this was pampering a dog instead of tormenting the dog. But, no opinion here. What do you see? Again, these are all these funny, weird pictures of dogs we see, but what do you see?
Walleye.
And furrowed brow and a sort of compressed behavior, right? This is a sad dog who I hope just ate that princess. And what do you see here? This is a very well-intentioned, perhaps medical worker working on a dog. What do you see? Paw raised, head back. Is this dog leaning into this care? No. He's not about to bite her. He's a nice dog, but he's not liking this. What do you see? Yeah, these dogs like this stuff. This one is mine. I woke her up for a minute. That has to happen a few times a day. I want this dog. I've wanted this dog for years. It's just so amazing. Okay, so let's put some of this together. Again, this is on-leash interaction. You'll give me the hook when it's time for me to stop, Will? This is also on YouTube, and it's called One Great Snark. And you see this interaction. What's his carriage telling you? He's stiff.
He's leaning forward.
He's leaning forward. Leash doesn't help that, but he is. And the little brown dog, who I believe is the trainer's dog, who probably has like years of therapy to go, because I think this dog is asked to interact with every dog. Look at this now in slow-mo, right? He is a straight arrow. This dog is curled, is leaning up under, is doing a little bit of that licking that the Facebook person asked, maybe? A little bit underneath. Very, very submissive posture. I'm not trying to win. I don't have my chin over your back, right? I'm good. I'm gonna look away. No offense intended. My ears are back, but not pin flat back. And then, right there, the leash is gonna tighten. And when that leash tightens, watch for it. It's a really subtle thing, but our interjection can make things worse sometimes. Okay, so that little brown dog has basically done everything except peel a grape for this dog. And I think she would if she had thumbs. I am doing everything to explain to you. My tail is relatively low set, it's a loopy wag. It's not, nothing going on here. I'm just a friendly dog. There's that. Watch that leash. And the owner of that dog, of the big dog, is going, something doesn't feel right.
So why does pulling the leash make the big dog
So,
aggressive? Or
well,
make that
make the dog react. We're going to talk about trigger stacking later, but if you are tense, let's say you're doing your taxes, which I know we all enjoy, and I come over and choke you. Is that going to help you? There we go. That leash got tight, and he was like, "That's it. I'm done. Enough already." Right? And all of that signaling happened in a few seconds in real time. So the owner inadvertently added that one aspect of additional pressure or additional influence. It was like, I'm done.
So if they had a different collar, would it been different?
No. No, probably not. And that was allowed to go on way too long. So here's a different, the same little brown dog. I feel so bad for it. And then another big, macho dog. But can you see and feel the difference?
Yeah,
The shepherd is loose. He's curving a little. He's allowed to completely inappropriately jump on children. I'm not recommending that. But the interaction between these dogs, same little brown dog, another big working dog, is so different. This dog does the curling. He's, they do the butt sniffing thing. This dog is probably still, looking for drugs after the last interaction. God, please don't kill me. But she knows, I don't know why I assume it's a she, but I do. She knows, what's going on. And she's a very lovely similar, she's got all of the sort of etiquette that one wants to say, hello, big dog, sir. I'm a nice dog, I want to be friends. And she has her ears back in a nice sort of submissive thing, but not pinned, like I'm gonna freak out. And then she curves, he curves. That tail's still pretty high, but it's loose. So you can take the exact same circumstances and then say, well, what's the difference? Big dog, tail high, all this sniffing, one went, one didn't, off the deep end, because all these signals are here, and they happen so fast. and that's it. I mean, nothing more happens than they all lived happily ever after. I'm so happy for her, I just feel like bullet dog. Reciprocal sniffing, so glad people don't do that. And that's, so trigger stacking, which is what you were just asking about what about pulling on that collar probably had contributed to that interaction. If you have a bad night's sleep and you spill your coffee on your keyboard and then you sit in traffic and you get to work and you realize you forgot your wallet and a difficult client demands an appointment to discuss a matter you thought was resolved, right? Which of these events will ruin your day and make you freak out? Hopefully none of them, but what if they were all on the same day? I'm done. I'm gonna call in psycho, right? I just have to go. Bad day. Problematic behavior is often a result of trigger stacking. So you've got a dog, I wrote them here, I don't have to make it up. Running, screaming kids nearby, and the dog has a sore hip, and truck brakes just went off, with the startling sound that many dogs are sensitive to. And maybe as somebody went by on a skateboard or a stroller went by, that's what, suddenly out of nowhere, the dog snaps or reacts in some way, is reactive, we would say. But that's trigger stacking. If that dog had been just one of those things that happened, the dog probably would not have reacted in that way. It's just how much can any of us take until we freak out. So we need to control the environment for dogs that are struggling, and we need to be aware of which of those triggers are triggers, right? I know that the little beagle I have is afraid of nothing except for truck brakes. They really worry her. And when I first was fostering her, when the truck brake went off, the first time we were walking down the street and a truck brake went off, she flew and she would have been gone if she had not been on a harness. It was an intense reaction. But, like Godzilla, she's like, come on, bring it, and don't touch my food, right? So, but it's really, to her, a super important thing that I need to know. And I had to be ready for it. If we walked on the main street, I had some treats. And if the truck brakes now signaled treats, that's a terrible noise, but after that happens, you get food. It's like, I can live with them, sort of, because it's not that she likes them, but they're not as terrifying. We have our thing, I'm aware of them, and when we're going by a truck, I'm already armed, and if we can't avoid it, I try to avoid them. But, I live in Somerville, there's trucks everywhere, and so, after that, it's like, okay, we paired something with something else. Now, I could have easily made it so that she never liked treats again, because if the treats weren't good enough and the sound was aversive enough, she would have just said, I don't like truck brakes and I don't like that food. So you have to be aware of what you're doing if you're pairing things. But it worked for her. So the takeaways are here that every animal is a study of one. It's really important to remember that. If you have 3 dogs, if you have 2 dogs, if you have 1 dog, every one of them is a study of one, and it will always be inconvenient. It's like, I don't know how they know that, but they always manage to have different needs. The circumstances change every day throughout the day. This is one of those things where you hit one ball and they just keep going. That's what it's like with behavior and with training with our animals and with people, frankly. So one thing changes and everything else is affected. I was going to the dog park, the dog was fine, maybe a little sore from yesterday's big romp, totally cool, then a truck brake went off and the dog got to the dog park and was a schmuck the whole time. Or something else, right? But everything affects everything. Context is key. You cannot say, what does X mean, without explaining, unless it's like, sort of even biting. What does biting mean? Well, I need the context, What led up to it? What kind of a bite was it? All of these things matter. All behavior needs context to understand it. And the individual history, environment, other dogs, humans, and other animals nearby. Is there a squirrel nearby? Is there a cat nearby? Previous training, how it was done. Does that dog have a punishment history? Because a lot of dogs, when you try to introduce training, if they have a history of having, the kind of equipment that is more aversive to them, or even yelling or hitting or something like that, you really need to start from zero, and you really need to carefully plan what you're gonna do, because there's not a lot of trust there. And if you mix them, it's even worse, maybe, I don't know. And the ABCs really tell us why, and therefore how to help. So if there's a problem behavior, first you look at the behavior, okay? That dog screams, it's super annoying. Well, what's the antecedent? What happens right before she screams? And if you don't know, then you have to figure it out. This is why dogs are annoying, because they make us work and think. But you have to try to figure that out. You know, if you have a dog that rushes to the door or you know, charges at people that are getting up from your couch, how dare they, you know, or whatever it is, you have to look at the antecedent, after you look at the behavior. And then you have to see what's the consequence. Every time that dog rushes a guest, the guest leaves. Maybe they wanted the guest to leave. Maybe that's good, you know, for the dog. So, you know, if you change the consequence, you change the behavior. And if you set them up before, so that they don't have to do that, then you don't have to worry about punishing something. So in the case of, we were talking earlier about a dog, little dog that chases people out or doesn't like when people get up and move, we call them space police. When you have a space police dog, you know, the thing to do before that, you have a friend over, you ask them to practice getting up, crossing their legs, whatever, but you give that dog, you know, touch, click, whatever it is you're gonna do, and you set that dog up to succeed. I have, and of course, learning body language is everything. And if we don't know what we're seeing, then we can't understand what's going on. And that's unfortunately when a lot of punishment happens that shouldn't. We don't understand why. Yes?
I've heard if there is a dog fight, you should always lift their back legs, is that correct?
Sure. I mean, it's sort of, so dog fights are really hard to discuss, partly because it depends what kind of a fight. If a dog is latched on to another dog, if you pull their back legs apart, the victim dog is going to get its flesh torn off. But maybe that's better than being killed. I don't know if you guys have break sticks that you keep at the park, but a break stick is a tool from, you know, pit fighting, but it's a good tool to have. I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to say this, but if not, it's still a good tool to have. And they're often made out of very hard wood, or like, I know somebody that makes them out of cutting boards. He cuts cutting boards, and they're sort of dagger shaped. They have a short handle, and I'll try to find a picture for you. And if you see a dog fight, and these dogs are really latched, there's somebody's latched on to another dog, you put that behind their back molar, and you turn it. You just turn it. And it will release the pressure even with, you know, the biggest, baddest fighting dogs and everybody else. And so at least enough to pull the victim dog out. You know, and you want to be standing over the dog or have some control. You don't want to be like, la la la, you stick it in there, you turn it, the dog now got to bite somebody. So you know.
Yeah, so far we haven't had very many injurious fights where the dog's really latched. I think the statement of grabbing the back legs is, first of all, you don't have to put your hands anywhere near the dogs that are their mouths, so you don't accidentally get bitten. And if they're not latched, it is a good way to pull them away because they're focused on each other, so you're pulling them back. If they're not latched, they're not fighting, probably. I mean, that's the other thing, is that dogs have massive displays of displeasure, and they're, you know, and that sort of build up, usually, if we can stand it, stops. All of that is the same kind of ritual as the rest of the language. I am not suggesting you don't do anything, but pulling a non-fighting dog by its back legs who is activated like that is likely to get you bit, because they turn. So you do have to be a little careful. You know, slam a folding chair between them, a closed folding chair. You know, you can do stuff like that. The question again is, I mean, dog fights, I think, are really difficult to discuss because not only is it context, but it's also, are you safe? What other dogs are involved? How much damage are you going to do trying to break it up, as opposed to, you know, you don't want a really bad fight. So in the levels of dog fights, dog fight, if I come back out here, if you'd like me to come back out, I'll focus on some of these things.
I can show you dog fight videos where you swear everybody's gonna end up dead, and somebody maybe bit their tongue. You know, it is just, the louder and the more prolonged it is, kind of the better you're off, you know? Whereas if you see a really horrible and serious fight, there's that initial noise, and then somebody's biting onto somebody and not letting go, and that's a problem. So if you can pull them by the back legs, I guess, but again, I mean, I wouldn't want that done to my dog. You
What
know?
it would-
I wouldn't want somebody to grab my dog's back legs, because it would hurt her, probably
Well,
more than the kerfuffle.
It's also really hard to get their
It's
back
really
legs.
hard to get
They're
their back
moving
legs.
a lot.
The technique we tend to use, and it works very, very well, is to actually go right behind the back hips.
Yeah,
So
and
you're
kick
around
them
the
there.
abdomen,
Yeah.
Yeah.
then you lift the back legs
Yeah.
off the ground, and
That's
and
a
you-
better way to do it. And again, I mean, if it's working and nobody's getting a redirected bite, and, you know, then I would suggest that those dogs probably aren't off their heads, and so that's fine.
Yeah.
And, you know, not reaching your hand in is absolutely the right thing to do.
Yep.
So, and at that time, it's not the best thing to call a dog, because even if he could, he's gonna go, Jesus Christ, you know, like, this is my thing right now, I'm doing what I can to complete this paragraph with this other dog, and if you interrupt me, I'm in danger, you know? And so lifting them up by the hips is by far a better option than grabbing their back legs
Yep.
and pulling. And if you have a fight, you need to break it up, and, you know, kind of sort of the consequences be damned. But a lot of times, and I don't know how to tell you when to run or not, but watch a lot of dog fight videos, not like fighting videos, but dog fights, and see what happens, you know. And it's they have a massive aggression language, that is really, really ornate and elaborate, and there's a lot of noise, and often little to no damage, because it's not genetically wise to fight to the death, you know. But that doesn't mean bad things don't happen, obviously, and that's important.
Is that the step where you break in though, or do you let it progress from the snarling, you know?
If snarling keeps going,
Okay.
like, it's really fast. In that Zoom room video, they showed an interaction with a couple of dogs that were having a kerfuffle. It's really fast when these things happen. And when that happens, yeah, everybody should be going towards the dogs. It's likely that by the time you get there, the fight is over. And depending on how far away they are. And I would never just let them work it out. I don't think that's good advice, any more than it is for children. But I would not call my dog, okay, Fluffy, come! Fluffy's going, Jesus, you know, I'm trying to survive here, Mom. You know, leave me alone, pretend you're not my mother. And so, you know, I think that's when we really need to be textual. I'm sorry to not give you some nice formula, but, you know, go there. If your dogs are fighting, if you need to grab them by the hips, like underneath the pelvis, rather than pulling by the back legs. But there are some people and some fights when you do what you can, you know. And so there are resources that I will send to Will, and that includes these dog park videos. There is a woman named Sue Sternberg. She's quite cautionary. She has a lot of experience with dogs, and a lot of it is not good. Not because her experience isn't good, but because she's been around so many dogs that are problematic that she's seen some real tragedies. So she tends to be, to some people's eye, a little alarmist. I think she's one of the most knowledgeable people about dog behavior there is. And Great Dog Productions is her YouTube channel, I believe, and everything else. She also plays the fiddle and does other things. She's great. Dog Socials is a colleague, and she uses some of Sue's videos, but also has some other videos in there looking at dog park behavior. And Chris Castejo is another colleague, has, I don't know that her channel has anything but her name, but she also has a lot. And, you know, if anybody wants to contribute to the vet van, the mobile vet van, go to everypetcounts.org, and if not, 100% fine, but we're almost there. We've almost got $150,000 to buy the outfitted van so that we can help people who can't afford veterinary care. So that's my little infomercial at the end, but you're free to ignore Are there videos that we wanna watch, or does
Yeah,
everybody wanna leave
before we get to the
screaming?
videos, there's 2 questions
Uh-huh.
on behavior and redirecting.
Yep.
My dog likes to jump on everyone at the park. Any advice of how to stop him from doing that?
So, a dead man cannot jump. So, what kind of dog is this, and how old? Can we get that information?
I believe it's a puppy, Paul
Well,
Bernard.
there's your problem.
Bernard, yeah. Bernard's less, yeah, Bernard's younger. It's a pit mix that just loves everybody.
So the problem with pit bull terriers is the terriers part, right? People think there's other stuff. No, it's they're terrierists, we call them, all of them. It doesn't matter, Jack Russell and him, no. But so if it's a puppy, the question I would ask is, what do you want the dog, or any dog, what do you want the dog to do instead? And so, and this is what we always have to ask. And so when that dog goes in that park and you let him go, that's all she wrote. So how about a couple of touch? Can you do touch? Can you call the dog back? Can you reinforce the dog for 4 on the floor? It's hard at the park with no food, but you can do this not at the park. We cannot test and teach at the same time. We have to prepare our dogs for the situations in which we want them to be trained. You can't go to a cafe and expect your dog to sit on the floor while you eat your brioche, unless you practice this at home, in the kitchen, and then on the front steps, and then maybe at a neighbor's house. You have to train before you test. And so for a dog that's like zooming out there, just losing its marbles, and it's a terrier, and it's a young dog, I would say, that all sounds pretty normal to me, but the behavior that isn't good needs to be, what do you want the dog to do instead? And then let's give him that option. Was there a second question?
Yeah, how to stop the dog from digging.
So dead men cannot dig? One of the things we want to do is replace a behavior if we can. So if this is at home and digging, then I really like, depending on how much, you guys have a fair amount of property out here when you have a house with an actual yard and things. In my ideal world, you would dig a pit, you would fill it with playground, sandbox sand, you would bury stuff in it at night, like a dog biscuit and a ball and a squeaker toy and a frisbee. And then when that dog went out, that's where that dog would dig. That would be ideal. I've done this also with children's sandboxes. So you put, but if this dog is digging everywhere, then you need to answer what you want the dog to do instead. When that dog is digging, and I know the answer is I don't want him to dig, but we have to give them something to do that replaces that behavior. You cannot take away behavior and expect there to be a vacuum. So if the dog is digging in certain circumstances, if we can get the A of ABC, right? B, the behavior is digging. A, the antecedent is the dog has been alone all day. The dog always does this every time it goes in the yard. The dog does this at the dog park only. Whatever it is, then we can say, well, we can maybe replace this behavior with something else, or we can teach the dog to do something else, like do some training. I mean, often that's the answer. But it's a pretty natural behavior. And boy, the dogs that love it, love it. So there are things to do, but it depends on a lot of the circumstances that I don't have right now. Anything else? Any of you guys have any questions? I didn't ask what kind of dog you had.
Greyhound, Italian Greyhound.
Oh my.
We've actually got a video of Max.
Oh, cool.
Just go
Have a
to-
Sunday,
Yeah.
Max.
Yeah, when you see the video.
Yeah, somebody just asked a question on the Facebook. Her Whippet Lab Cross
Well, there's your problem.
loves to run flat out when he comes into the park. He tends to drive up the other dog's prey drive, is coming at a less busy time, best to prevent him being ganged up on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, that's the kind of dog, I mean, Whippet, stop there. That dog was born to run. We genetically engineered it to want to run. We can't ask it to not run, nor is this owner, I believe, doing so. But that's a moving object. That's a squirrel for all intents and purposes, you know? And so the options, and it's not an either or, are absolutely take it with at a less busy time, If the dog has dog buddies that it plays with and runs with, try to go with them, because that can be a little bit of not immunity, but a little bit of a presence of more than one against all.
Yeah.
Try to exhaust the dog with other things. So again, good training, tricks, nose work, things like that really tire out a dog. People don't believe me, but you have a dog sniffing meat out of boxes for half an hour, and the dog is like, oh my God. And then they lie down and sleep for 4 hours. It's like, what is this magic? So I would say all of the above. That dog needs to run because it's a running breed mix. But yes, I would be concerned along with that owner that dog's in danger. And so not busy times, and also maybe not so full tilt. And the way you can control the full tilt is only by having a dog that's got less energy to burn once it gets to the park.
So to get to the videos, go to, you can open up your browser, go to YouTube/Chelmsford Dogs.
It's old,
Well, she does that. I'll say, my first dog, I never physically tired her out in her 11 years. Physically. I
Sorry,
could mentally
Will.
tire her out in 15
Frozen.
minutes. Because focusing, those kind of high energy dogs, having to focus and stay with you is exhausting.
Yeah.
And it's the best way to get them, to get that energy out.
I'm unable to escape.
What were you doing to like mentally tire them out?
I would just teach her just silly stuff. Like,
Okay.
after a while, she was fairly well trained, obviously. She had a lot of behaviors, and so I would just come up after a while with things like, I had a weighted ball. I taught her to put her paws up on it and move it across the room. Like, they weren't always functional.
You always try to teach with a treat or not necessarily?
I did.
Okay.
Not necessarily. Like, I would do things. She loved to run up the stairs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I taught her weight with food, but
Yeah.
then when I didn't want her to run up the stairs until I told her to, I made her wait at the bottom, and her reinforcer was going up the stairs.
Yeah.
So you can use environmental reinforcers as well.
Do you have any suggestions for my beagle with this pop and
So go to what?
Does it anywhere now?
Like I would say, the first thing I would say is the dog tired?
Okay,
Is it a physical thing? I always
Yeah.
look at that first.
Yeah.
So I'd have to look at that. The way touch is the greatest thing to teach a dog.
Okay.
Because it may not be able to want to move 20 feet, but can
Yeah.
it move 2 inches?
Okay.
And just repeatedly have it touch. A lot of times when I need a dog to move, that's what I do, is I ask them just to touch my hand.
Oh, okay.
The nice thing about it also for other dogs that are really a little bit weirded out by things going around is you can just move your dog and they have to pay attention.
Sometimes if I really like try to play with him, he will eventually move.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing is to call him to you like this, call him to you, because we always try to get him to go with us.
So this is Violet. She's got a greeting behavior. It is enthusiastic. She's very shy and retiring. It's hard to know what she wants. So I don't know if a single dog can mob, but if so, Violet's trying. She's really cute. And you see, can you, let's go back for a minute.
Saw that Ford.
What's that dog doing? Do you think there's something that interesting there?
That's avoiding.
It's displacement.
Just sniffing.
Oh my God, I've never seen a leg more interesting. Oh my, and even the snow. Oh hi. Hi Violet. I did not know you were here.
Come here, let me smell you.
And do you see the tail carrots go
That's a
down?
hard, that was a hard.
The what go
Yeah.
down?
The tail carrots, her tail went down. Wasn't pinned, but went down.
Hey, what was this toy? Where's
Yeah,
this?
They found a glove.
Huh?
They found a glove.
Oh, they found a glove.
They made it
Sorry,
to-
I missed what this is.
And before I can get it away from them, they started playing with it, and I.
Okay.
But you know, are these both your dogs?
Those are both mine.
So I would consider pretty much every circumstance safe. If these are two dogs that live together and know each other, and dad is there, and you know, and unless there's a reason to think otherwise. Only they look so depressed.
No, it's mine. No, it's mine. No,
They're
it's
bouncing.
mine.
Yeah.
Mine, all mine.
And somebody's going, that was mine. My glove in my hands are cold.
Yeah, I posted on Facebook. Sorry about whoever's glove this was.
Exactly.
But look how
Oh, are you trying
bouncy
to
they
get
are.
volume?
So who's who? Which one's Luna?
Luna's the darker one.
Okay.
Trinket's the tan one.
Is there any volume
Paul,
on
is there any volume on these?
Maybe. The volume would have been there, but it's from a cell phone.
This is, the next one? Don't know?
Same two dogs,
Oh, same two dogs.
different location though.
Yeah, I was
Different
gonna say, that's
location,
not the
same
park.
behavior. It's really nice. Do you notice how they're going back and forth and trading and the chasing and the chaser?
Paul, where is this?
That's Southwell Fields.
Oh, okay, yep.
I do like the I can chase you and
They are
keep the
so
frisbee.
happy looking
Yeah.
to go.
That's great. There's no sound on this anyway.
So they're okay off leash then?
Sort of. That day, it took me a half hour to get Trinket back in the car.
Okay, here's some bitey face. Are these the same two
So
dogs?
one's
Yep.
going up under.
He's got a lot.
But they're all short.
So the bitey face is, you know, I used to call, I had two Swissies before I ended up with this unlikely beagle. And they would do, I call it shamu. With each other. Okay, let's back that up. First of all, it's unfair we have a dog without legs.
That Basset is Katie. Katie has learned how to take down a 6-month-old Great Dane.
Oh,
Oh.
like a bowling ball can take down a 6-month. I love Basset Hounds, but they're heavy and their feet smell like Fritos.
She turns like a fire truck.
Yeah. Does it boom?
Because they're, yeah.
So I don't know if anybody's wanting comments on this. Here's a nice group shot. Oop. Oh, did you see that? So this brown and white dog is now being chased by the smaller one, which that's up there. But here we go. Sorry, I can't get
Terriers.
back to where. Right. So somebody gets butt nipped right before where I was. Boop. That
Okay.
brown dog bit them. This white and spotted
Yep,
dog
yep,
turns
saw
around
that.
like, dude, like that look on that dog's face told everything. And now it's like, oh my God, this is the most interesting fence I have ever smelled. I can pee on this too, you little short doggy. Now I'm gonna get out of here. That was actually a lovely display of a dog not liking what was going on in a crowd, getting out of the crowd, going over, amazing blade of grass, I'm out of here. This is Boston, what are you gonna do? Okay, and this is the one entrance, correct?
Yeah, we have a separate entrance and a separate exit, but,
Okay.
it's only one entrance.
Let's play.
Okay, that one, so
Show us
what,
up.
this guy, how does,
Smell.
I'm just trying to get, how does this brown dog coming in feel? How does this dog feel?
A little worried.
Yeah, it looks a little
How,
worried
why do we
overwhelmed.
know, that dog's?
Tail straight up, not wagging,
No.
Yeah.
Yes, it's
Yours
stiff.
is
His
burnt.
stance.
stance, very
He's not
stiff.
stepping back.
Oh.
He's looking like this.
Yeah, he's got that, I'm fine, look on his face. Does that mean he shouldn't go to the park? No. You know, maybe there are better ways to get him in. Maybe the owners of those other dogs could say, oh, you know, look, a pair of eyeballs are walking in the park. I think I'll call my dog over, you know, and help him get in a little more easily. But, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean this dog shouldn't have fun. It's just be aware. This dog's like, holy something I can't say.
Come in this way. What'd you have last night?
I'm just gonna go over.
Yeah.
So if he wanted to play with those dogs, he would have. He comes in like holy hell, you know. There's a lot of them.
I put this one in here specifically.
To be scolded about unrestrained dogs in a car, it's working.
Well, they go nuts at anybody outside the car.
Yeah. And so, does that bother you?
Yeah, I want to find a way to fix it.
Okay. So, what might you do to control?
Well, I could restrain them.
Which may or may not fix it, but absolutely, that's a way to start.
But I can't really I can't distract them as I'm driving by myself.
No, please don't do that. You
Exactly.
seem like a nice man. It would be a shame for you to die in a fiery wreck. So, no, but I do think that crating dogs is an important thing in a car for safety. You know, we in the field do not say this out loud to clients ever, so I would never say this in front of you, but we do refer to them as the other airbag. sometimes, especially the people holding dogs on their laps as they drive. But also they're projectiles. And a 60-pound dog will take your head off, quite literally.
What about the seatbelt harnesses?
Seatbelt harnesses, there's only one that's been actually crash tested, and I can't remember the name of it right now. But they're good, the others are not. So you wanna Google crash tested dog harness. And, cause the other ones are just nonsense. But, again, if you have dogs wrapping themselves in a knot in a harness, I can't imagine what could go wrong. But the other thing is there's stuff like, I had a dog that was a little bit like that, you know, she was just, everything needed permission. She just didn't like stuff that didn't have paperwork. And so I put her in a crate in the car and I put a sheet over the crate. Then there wasn't anything to go nuts about. They do make these things called calming hoods or something that look like Iran-Contra hostage things. I don't like them because they freak me out, but some people do them. I don't like them.
They're like the hoods for the raptors when they're training them.
Except much creepier.
Yeah,
And they're also made to look like sort of, you know, Grandma Clampett's shower cap.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
They're weird. They're
Okay.
very weird.
So now we
They're
have.
good for OCD dogs.
Oh, I missed some.
Dogs who get freaked out by light
Oops, I
or
missed
go
that.
crazy for light.
I missed that video. And, well, okay. My God, this grass. It's amazing. Okay, now it feels like a little bit safer,
Yeah.
and I can play.
I wanna play.
So let's look at that again. So, shockingly, they're doing all the things we thought they would do. The golden, though, is just going, wait, really? There's good grass. But the other dogs are going, this dog, this little, I'm pointing at my screen, it's probably not helpful, is saying, oh my God, look at this grass, because he was mobbed, or she,
And that was one.
and now there's one-on-one, and possibly happy about the play, maybe not, but at least it's manageable. If a dog is running against a fence, I'm gonna say he's not having fun.
But his tail completely changed partway through.
Yeah.
If you notice that, it was very down, and it came up. So I don't know if it came up.
There's
in-
that brown and white dog who doesn't have a sense of humor, but that seems very reasonable to me. And it's not true that dog doesn't have a sense of humor. He's really good at fooling other dogs, I think. Oh, little Labrador. Run, boy.
English labs don't run.
No, I'm not gonna feed him that much. So, he's like, what? Stop, Jesus. You're so annoying.
It's like the little brother.
It is. Look, I have a really interesting piece of fence.
Okay,
I'm just gonna.
Pause for a second.
Yes.
There's a question online. Any tips for a first timer at the dog park? I have a 6-month-old, 30-pound OES poodle mix. Had a bad case of Giardia, so missed out on all the puppy socialization and classes, but is now finally cleared. What's the best way to start socialization after an extended house arrest?
This is a really good question, and it's tragic because a lot of what we mean, well, you know, we've labeled socialization too. We don't know what that really means. What we mean usually is, how do I get my dog comfortable in playing with other dogs or people? And the first thing to do is not take them to a dog park. That's called flooding. I'm afraid of spiders, so the obvious cure is to put me in a room with thousands of them, and I'll get over that. You know? Maybe not. So what I would do is, if you don't have friends with other dogs, go to the dog park. This is a really nice community here, so maybe ask a couple of people online or something, you know, what kind of dog is this? Did we learn?
OES poodle mix.
Okay, so too big for the IG, but you know, maybe not for the Jack Russell mix or something. You know, find another dog or two that are in the same size, and remember that, you know, I like Lisa, but we have a mutual friend who I don't like at all. I don't necessarily want to like play with that friend who knows exactly who I'm talking about. But and so, you know, find a friend or two and try that, and then mix up those dogs and try that, and let's get that dog, you know, inoculated a little bit to just the concept of play. And puppies, I would never recommend taking puppies to a dog park. It's too much, too fast, and it takes one bad situation to have a lifetime of working on what's going on with that dog.
Now, although people are not technically allowed to restrict other dogs from the separated area, which we call our training area, quite often we allow them to go in there as a socialization method, as long as they're not hogging the area for long periods or frequently.
But they
would
have to
that
get through the dog park to
No,
get
there
there.
is an
I see.
exterior direct access.
So, yeah, I mean, if you could go in the training area from a different exit or entrance point.
Yep.
And then have 1 or 2 dogs in there, you know, remember how overwhelming it's gonna be. Don't pick a Saturday morning that's sunny and beautiful.
So viewers, remember, the training area is not technically excludable land if you want to go use it like that. But talk to the people in the park and they'll usually be willing to let you use that area as a socialization area, as long as you're not there for hours.
Yeah, and you know, maybe, I don't know, I'm offering a service you might not want and she might not want to give, but you know, maybe Lisa could come out and do a morning class there. A recall class for puppies or something like that, you know, for anything, but if we could use that training area to actually work on that, because the socialization period in dogs ends very young.
If you want to do it formally, if you have a trainer and you want to bring it, or you want to set up a formal class, the training area is rentable, and if you do rent it officially, then you get to set the rules for that area for the period
So
of the rental.
maybe your community would want to do that,
Yeah.
and Lisa's got some cards here, and she's very good at that. So I mean, I think that something like that. I'm not making light at all of the question. I think it's one of the most important questions we've heard, but you've got to do it slowly. You cannot flood a puppy. Everything will go wrong.
Now, what age group are you talking about when you're saying puppy?
I was just asking.
Well, it depends on the size of the dog. I would never take a dog into a dog park, and I mean, I never say never. I would never take a dog into a dog park below 5 months, maybe.
But 4 months is the minimum age anyways.
Right, and that's nuts. And so I mean, unless it's done in some special circumstances, do not take a 4-month-old dog into, I mean, it's like saying, okay, honey, you know, there's some gang members over there, be good, and don't learn the bad stuff, you know, and then they come back home and they're like, I'm selling drugs.
It's
So,
like, do you see the movie Sweet Home Alabama? You have a baby in a bar.
yeah, exactly. Baby in a bar, exactly. So, so I would set it up, I'd be deliberate. The best chance for having the next 10 or 12 years of successful dog interaction is to not rush it.
We have, the small dog area gets all the puppies, because obviously, once they're a certain age, they go over, but.
And again, each dog is a study of one. If this puppy is like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever done, you're good.
Okay.
If it's like, what fresh hell is this? You know, and I don't know what this is, and you know, then you gotta listen to that. And you gotta try to help that dog, because not only are you saying, we know there's a fence, we know it's a segregated area, but they're going, I smell the ghost of every dog that has ever peed on this playground, and you know, there's a lot of sounds and a lot of sights. It's gonna be very overstimulating. And I would absolutely have food in the puppy area. I don't know whether you can do that or not, but I would. All right.
If you rent the training area,
Yeah.
you can set the rule that training
Okay.
treats are allowed, toys are allowed.
I have a friend's dog who looks a lot like that dog. It's like Kenya. So that dog was, you know, doing a reasonable thing, seeing what's going on. Somehow we expect. Whose little dog is that? I want to know.
That's
that
Dexter.
Dog. Dexter, the little Jack. I mean, just full of hell. I love him. The husky's like, oh my God, I've been bested. And they're, so remember I talked about splitting? Did you see that? That was beautiful. Yay, Golden. So, the Golden is like, I'm sorry, this is getting out of hand. So little dog, big dog, husky, Jack, neither one of those breeds is known for its self-control. And then, yeah, did kneecap a human, but just before that, did a really good move. And, there you go. Boom. And so maybe grace isn't the high point of that dog's existence, but it really knows how to break up. I mean, it was absolutely appropriate.
Yep.
I feel like we should get people leg braces. Dog parks, just for safety. I'm talking to you. Says Brindle Dog. Look at
Yeah,
the tail.
that's Trinket.
Hmm?
That's Trinket.
That's one of your dogs?
Yeah.
So,
That's her barking at me specifically.
right, because you're not doing the right thing. Whatever that's
Just paying
supposed to
attention
be.
to her.
I wanna see the Italian Greyhound, so. And
The
that's
one,
your
the one
two-
listed as Max, on the side, if you scroll down, I'm not sure where it is.
No, I don't see any.
Yeah, there it
Oh,
is,
Max, Italian Greyhound. Is it okay if I?
Yeah, we can,
Is it
I'm
Max?
talking to some of it, but that's the one.
I just wanted to get a lot of videos out there to look at.
Yeah.
I like the way they play.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is.
No, I was gonna say, this is, you can see it's back and forth, and they have similar play styles.
Yeah.
So they're fine to play with that. But
And
if
then they
you
take a
went-
break.
And then they
they
take a
sniff
break,
the
yeah.
grass, because never has there been a more interesting piece of grass. So I just wanna make sure we look at enough dogs. I just lost Max.
I think it was.
We're on 4307
Okay,
now.
here, a dog on her back.
That's
That-
the Gangan.
Is it ganging? I think so, a little bit. I think the thing here is that could go wrong. So I think that's okay. If I were the owner of any one of those dogs, I would just be kind of walking up. I wouldn't be getting hysterical, but I would start going, is that dog on the ground having fun? I actually think that dog that I meanly said had no sense of humor but does, is worried too.
Yeah.
So, that, if you look at that face, that's bitey face, but that brown dog over there is going, ha, got your foot. So, let's look at this again. Okay, going in for the back bite. That brown dog is pretty out of control. Now, right there, that dog with the white coat and the brown spots, that lip went up. So that means something just tipped a little bit. I'm pointing at my screen, but you can't see.
Right there,
And
yeah, I
other
see it.
dogs come over too.
And other dogs are coming, they're coming in. That golden who was a splitter is a little worried.
The lab is also trying to split.
Yep. So the lab's like, Jesus, Dad, I'm actually the only sane one here right now.
And the owner's getting in
The
there
owner,
right now,
yeah, she's
so.
getting
Yep.
in there.
Yeah.
No, but
Can control
that's
it.
the owner of the victim dog,
Yeah.
right? And so-
I think
The
that was
one
the
that
owner of the
grabbed the
dark
brown
dog.
dog was the owner of that brown dog.
Right, but of the victim dog, the dog that was on her back, or his back, whatever,
I don't think the owner of the
No,
victim
of the
dog was
golden.
there. It was the owner of the short hair.
okay.
The owner of the one, the lab that was on the ground,
Yeah.
was right there with me. But Penny, not Penny,
So
that's
I
Buddy.
want-
Buddy likes to play on the ground on his back.
So it's a dog's style.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I want you to look at these two galoots. Oops, sorry, back here. So we could easily say, oh, well, that dog's getting knocked over and body slammed. In this case, this dog is literally saying, knock me over again. I can't, look, so like the white dog has the black dog down, black dog's on her back, gets up, is like, ha, I fell again, and does it again, and again, it's hysterical. These are such great videos. Look at that Dane. It's like, somebody let a horse in here. Who put the horse?
Give me 2 doggy bags.
So I think that these two dogs, whoops, the little cattle dog just came in and said, I'm sorry, you were about to have fun and we can't have that. But the other two dogs, I think, actually had a very similar play style. I'm gonna just go there again, looking at the Dane. Then Husky and Brown Dog. Boom, let's bang chest. Oh, no, there will be no fun. So this is not the fun police that splits dogs. This is a dog that so that I would not have allowed. And cattle dogs are just,
And you look at it's ridged now too. The spine hairs
yeah.
are up.
Yeah.
right.
We have a dog in the small dog park that constantly runs along the fence if there's huskies in the all dog area.
Mhm.
Barks and barks and barks.
That was my dog. I would get him out when there were huskies there. Because
I removed my dog from a bark park anytime
And
a
that little
boxer
black
came.
dog should not
Say
be
that
in
again.
there, that Frenchie, that's a Frenchie, shouldn't be in there. with those
Anytime
dogs.
a boxer came to the dog park that I would
Why
go
would
to,
you
I would
say
get my
that-
dog out, cause they didn't
Why
like
should
her,
that dog
she
not
didn't
be
like
in there?
them.
Yeah.
Because that's a very small dog in a very rowdy group of aroused large dogs.
Okay.
And sometimes they become the glove, seriously,
They become what?
the glove. And so, I mean, I know that's.
The glove like the first,
Yes.
Yeah.
okay.
That's as polite as I can say it.
Where's Max?
I know,
One
I
of
keep losing it.
one of the things I like to tell.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna move ahead to the dog
Yep.
because I'm getting the hook. We can't hear your,
Yeah, we can just go past him.
we can't, well, I don't think it's him that's the problem. Okay, there we go.
Go to the very front part. Right about a little bit up, move the mouse.
That's his,
Up a little, about 30 seconds up.
that's, this is the very,
No,
the other
30
way, to
seconds
the right.
the other
oh,
way.
to the
Right?
right.
Yeah, just past it. Right to the left. Keep on going to the left.
Okay, what am I
To the
looking
left.
for?
There we
If you'll-
go.
you-
So he's right there on
Aha.
the couch.
Yes,
He
that
jumps
is-
up. So see how he's can't hear it, but he's
Yeah.
he just barks at him.
Oh, just at him?
Yeah.
What happens when he barks at him? I'll listen
He's
to this at home.
he's at like a level 8 every time he kind of
So what,
comes
what are the
around.
consequences of that?
tell him to stop.
So he gets attention,
I try to calm him down
so he
from
gets
that.
attention.
Yeah, and that's
Does he leave, does the person leave?
No, he's
not
going to get
really.
breakfast.
I mean, he might.
Well, I'm
brought
just
up-
wondering if he always walks away.
Hmm.
That's a good point. So there'll be times where he'll be sitting on the couch next to me. In one situation.
The dog or
He'll-
the kid?
The dog.
Yeah.
He will come down the steps, go to the kitchen, wherever it may be. But as soon as he's walking away, and then he's pouncing.
So that's the,
you know,
yeah. So
barking at him.
that's a lot like what you guys have with the you can't fire me, I quit kind of dog. It's like, okay, you're leaving, well, then get out, you know. But that, again, that behavior is, first of all, Italian Greyhounds are kind of famous for this.
For that?
Yeah. For that, not necessarily for the one person thing, but it's like, you know what, I'm super fragile and super cute and fast, and I'm gonna be unbelievably annoying when I bark, you know. But they are known for being nervous, which is a label that we really shouldn't put on. Because I don't know that this dog is nervous, but I know that that is an expression of tension that's a tension response, right? And they don't have a lot of ways to express that. And so, you know, they don't have quite the space moving abilities as most other dogs and things like that. Even like, you know, corgis and heelers and headers, even like that cattle dog or corgi or whatever, they're used to moving large things, you know, but Italian Greyhounds are not, and so they do a lot of that energy barking. So the question needs to be, what do you want the dog to do instead? But because the environment is, you can't control it like that, I would talk, who's that person? He's a member of your family?
Yeah, yeah.
So I would say to him, we're gonna practice, and you're gonna walk in the room, and, you know, when you walk in the room, I'm gonna say, good, I'm gonna give that dog a cookie. Something, liverwurst, something soft and very yummy to that dog, and I wanna keep
To break
practicing
that.
that,
They
right?
break that cycle
So
when
the,
it barks. All right.
the advent of the trigger
Mhm.
predicts something super yummy that you only get when that trigger appears, right? So.
That's a lot of treats I gotta have.
Well, yeah, and you have to, and it's Italian Greyhound, it will explode. So you're gonna have to do like little tiny bits of something that that dog thinks is unfreaking believable. So you can go get a steak, you can go get chicken breast, you can go get whatever it is and mix it up. Doesn't always have to be the same every day.
Okay.
But you'll be surprised how fast it goes.
All right.
Yeah, and it really is, because right now, the dog is going, you know, alert, 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 and also Dad will pet me and I'll get some attention from the creepy guy I'm kind of drawn to.
Mm.
You know, and so, right, we wanna sort of change that paradigm and sort of say, okay, so when he comes in, I get that, once you're past that, that's not for the end of time, you know, and that's an initial training step. And then you can say, go to your bed, or then that person can start feeding the dog and doing other things that make him less of a threat. You know?
When I get company over, he's like that also. So he's
Yeah.
always barking when he comes to the door.
Right.
I know that part, but I'll have to put him in the crate to. And see me, he just keeps barking, barking, barking,
Yeah.
barking. Now, when that person goes away, then obviously he stops barking, but as soon as they
Right.
come down the steps.
So again,
it's-
what can the dog do instead? Like if you're having company over, can you give the dog a number of Kongs filled with dog food or whatever it is in there, in his crate, so that when company's coming over, he gets the best day? And it's all kind of, food is a limited value with an Italian Greyhound, but you can make it hard to get, so he has to work at it, freezing it, stuff like that. And there's counter conditioning that needs to take place. I would call her. Because it's not a quick answer, because it is a behavior that this dog is displaying at the appearance of any human that's not you. And maybe at the
Yeah.
disappearance of any human that's not you. You must be super nice. But there's a lot of things you can do. And if that guy lives in your house, have him feed the dog. No. Let's see, maybe
Yeah.
some of the bonding can take place.
I'm gonna try the treat first.
Yeah. I know, you're attached to feeding the dog, and that's, as we all are, but the question is, do you want peace in the valley? Because if you're training this dog, you're gonna have a huge reinforcement history. Let me just say this, because I know I can feel the hook around my neck. If you think of training and behavior as a piggy bank, and every time you can positively reinforce that animal, whether it's with food or with a toy or with a leaf that you're flicking, or I once won a contest with a puppy, training it with a paper plate and a lemon. I mean, literally. And, but every single time that dog has a successful interaction with you and you've positively reinforced that dog, it's like a plunk in the piggy bank of a coin. And you want that piggy bank to be groaning, because sometimes we have to say, knock it off, because we're in an emergency situation or something's going on, and there's gonna be a withdrawal of that trust and that goodwill. And we want that piggy bank so fat that we can then afford to make that withdrawal without causing damage. So over and over and over and over again, we want to give those dogs the opportunity to be reinforced. This is big, not just, yeah, he does it and I give him a cookie. It should be, we want to give a dog as many opportunities in a day to be reinforced as possible, and every time that happens, and you said, yep, that's what I wanted, you're filling that piggy bank. That piggy bank is filled with trust, it's filled with relationship, it's filled with bonding, and then you can afford stuff like, okay, maybe it's not punishment, maybe you're gonna have that guy feed your dog, right? That's not gonna hurt your relationship with this dog, because you do a lot of other things, you know? So, training is really important.
Do you have anything else in this video, Rob?
Well, we can't hear it, but when we're in a car, he just
The barking?
he cries. He goes
Oh.
around and around and around. I heard you say something about the
Crash
the
harness or a
hardness.
crate. I would put him in a crate because he's so little.
Not to,
And IG's bones break easily. I would put him in a crate.
yeah.
So at the end of the list, scroll all the way down, there's one named video. Yeah, this one was loaded by a different person.
Is that the no?
Alright guys, when you take videos,
I know.
Yes, landscape mode.
So, tell me about this dog. What are you seeing right now?
I'm saying the little dog is unhappy with the situation.
Why? But why? Can you tell me why? Let's get rid of the labels
I see
and look at the
the
behavior.
tail is.
Tell me,
Well,
let's look at the big dog. I am not gonna blind myself. I'm not gonna blind myself. It's really hard to see, but if you take off my glasses and look close, that dog, the big dog's ears are quite forward. And again, we're not talking about a bad dog in any of these videos. This is a circumstance, a behavior in a moment, right?
Yeah.
So there's no judgment about whether a dog is good or bad, but we're just looking at this. The bigger dog's ears are kind of forward, and the little dog, you can see fairly right there, that's kind of a tucked
yeah.
posture, right? So he's a little compressed. And he goes, Jesus, now, look at this. It's like the Aunt Tilly kiss, right? Jesus, please don't kiss me. You know, like, oh. And so he's kind of doing this, right? But without hands. Okay. Look away, lip lick. Not, and back up. Back up a little bit more. Look away, lip lick, shake off.
Shake.
Oh, I forgot to put shake-offs in.
Shake-offs are big.
Yeah. Yeah, shaking off is a huge signal that I forgot to put in this. Sniff, oh my God, this grass. Have you ever noticed
Yeah.
this grass? Oh, Dad. Oh, damn. Now I'm down, paw up, belly exposed. It is not a relaxed dog. Belly exposed is, I'm not a threat. We had a dog at the dog training club I worked at once. It was a Great Dane, a blonde Great Dane, Maya, and she would come into the middle of this place that had 30 dogs training in different rings, lie in the middle of the floor with her feet in the air, and her stomach exposed, and her tail curled over onto her belly. People would go, I wish I could be that relaxed. Like, when was the last time you went to a cocktail party and lay down in the middle of the floor? Like, what kind of behavior do you think this is, people? Okay, so the little dog is not frozen because she's kind of waiting to see if this is gonna go okay. Every time she looks up, the big dog looks down. Big dog's now like, your boy. Oh, now you're something to chase, right? I would have long ago come in. Look at that. That's a very sad posture. The two arms up.
And the tail on the big dog. It's very
The
still.
tail on the big dog is like, I don't care what you say. This is a bunny.
Yeah.
Right? So bunnies are fun to chase. Pick up, shake. Nothing good. Not the big dog's fault. That dog shouldn't be in there with that big dog. I think it's a puppy.
I think it's
I think it's a puppy.
And that puppy's gonna be like shooting heroin by the time it's 14. I think I'm gonna, you know what,
The
I don't know.
gang.
I don't know whether to do that or go blind.
He's a gang
So,
affiliate.
so, I mean, again, I think it's really important as we talk about this stuff to not judge the dogs or the owners. This is a language. My Italian is really terrible, you know. So if you judge me on my Italian, it's unfair. But as we learn this stuff, then we can do better. You know, what is it Maya Angelou said? As I knew better, I did better.
And that's part of the goal of these
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
discussions is to help the owners start learning.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And a shake-off is weirdly the one I forgot, as Lisa points out. Probably the most common thing of all, you're gonna see dogs shaking all the time. So they have an interaction with a dog and then one shakes it off. And then they go and they get bumped or they get slammed or their owner calls them and they maybe lip lick and then they shake it off. And you see shake-offs all the time.
And what does it mean?
It's another anxiety or stress relieving
Oh,
signal. It's sort of like, whew, you know. All right, I can feel the hook. It is time. Thank you very much for your time
Thank you.
in Facebook land and here. It's very nice talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
And for all the folks online, the videos are posted to the Chelmsford Dog Association's YouTube channel. If you want to take a look at the ones she was discussing.
Lisa
And
will go online and make comments.
yeah, and they're going to make some comments on them online on YouTube. And also the presentation will be available on the Chelmsford Dog Association website shortly after this. That is chelmsforddogassociation.org.